Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. I am your host, Joe Soro, for the experiment, the LA edition. And even though the Lakers are off for the moment, we're going to discuss a little bit of the second half of the season. Basically, the last third. I don't think it's half anymore. But then, of course, we will talk about the beginning of the LA Dodgers in spring training and their path to three-peat. Three-peat, man. I could have never imagined three-peat in the Dodger world. It was always a three-peat. It was always 70 wins with the Lakers. But I just it still hasn't registered that the Dodgers in baseball going for a three-peat. I can't tell you how amazing that sounds. I had a talk with Jeff Empire Jeff on this, and he thinks that this three-peat would be more uh I guess it would be more glamorous. He didn't use that word. I'm using it. More glamorous or more difficult, maybe even, than the three-peat of the Laker dynasty in 2000, 2001, 2002. And I started thinking about what that meant, and I started going through started going through things on that. I go, there may be some truth to that because it's baseball. Baseball's random. You can't just depend on Shaq and Kobe to take you over the hump. You have to kind of have this cohesive unit, and you're dealing with in baseball. Even though in some cases, depending on how you finish the year, you only have to deal with three series in baseball normally. You do if you have to play the wild card series like the Dodgers have twice to win championships, and then you know 7-game series and 4 series. I don't know. I haven't really gotten to that point where I'm comparing both, but what would make it unique is if you three-peat in an era where analytics have really squeezed every ounce of juice out of anything. You look at the batting averages in baseball now, and it's amazing how you got a batting champion. I think that what was it, 308, 313? I think it was Trey Turner. And you this thing is so calculated now that you really can't really you got to be Aaron Judge to kind of bounce out of it. And Aaron Judge, what can you say? He's that one guy that can hit 330 and still hit you 50 home runs. Sometimes you just have that one guy that can do it. And with Otani, because I've had this discussion lately with because what happens a lot is when somebody starts to really ascend, and you guys have heard me talk about this all the time. When somebody starts to ascend, you start hearing the critics come out and start nitpicking. So it's funny, this last playoff run, anytime Otani had a bad game or two, all of a sudden it's, oh, he sucks. Oh, he sucks. Oh, he sucks. The Philly series was the best one. And I had to point out that there were certain instances in that series where their assessment of what's great, especially in baseball, is as stupid as their face was. And I said it just like that too, because it tends to kind of get at the heart of that person as soon as you start insulting their looks, because they probably already know they're ugly on the inside, and the outside shows even more ugliness. So anyways, so I'd say, well, let's talk about that. So apparently Shohei Otani had his worst series against the Phillies, yet he won game one as the pitcher. And then he was walked purposely to allow Mookie Betts to then get enough pitches to walk and tie the game in the crucial game 4, which they ended up winning. The man has a hand in every series, every game, if you really get into the details. It's baseball is not football, basketball, or hockey. It's just not, guys. You cannot give Otani the ball in every corner. You can't. Like in football, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, these guys control half the game, right, on offense. And hell, they could even go on defense if they want, but you could put one of those guys and turn them into Deion Sanders, right? Like, you can still do it if you wanted to do it, right? Basketball, that's easy. Hockey, same thing. Like, give the puck to Mario Lemieux, give it to Ovechkin, give it to Crosby. You can't do that in baseball. So a guy like Otani, as great as he is, and that should actually point to even more greatness. The fact that he can impact the game only batting once every 9 at bats and pitching every fifth day. That goes to show you how unbelievably great he actually is. So again, morons are always going to come and try to find an excuse. It's kind of like the successful person. I've said this a few times on the Lakers Fast Break. When you're too successful, the losers start to come out in droves because see, losers are they don't have the discipline, they don't have the and unfortunately sometimes they don't have the genetics, which is not really their fault, but they don't work with the fact that they don't have the genetics. And it's not just genetics and physicality, it's mental, right? Well, they'll have an excuse. Well, I grew up and my parents were hard on me, and my parents were this, or my parents were that. Look, there's been documented stuff millions of times where the parents were cool and the kid came out cool. There's also documentation where the parents were cool and the kid turned out to be crap. Then you have that guy that was bullied and pressured and he became great. And then you have the guy that was bullied and pressured and became bad. Like it's really in the end, at some point, you got to kind of figure it out as you get older. But of course, people always look for excuses first. But anyways, the Dodgers are looking pretty good. I think from comparing it from last spring training versus now, there's obviously a lot of positive stuff going on. Even last year, I ended up attending a game last year. I'm planning on going there probably either next weekend or the weekend after. And I'm going to go meet up with my boy Chris, hoping Jeff can join us as well. I don't know when he's going to be out there, if he can get out there. But one thing I do like about this year is they actually did, even though they got Tanner Scott last year, if you guys knew anything about Tanner Scott, he wasn't necessarily a closer. He was more of a setup guy that they try to make a closer. Well, now they have a closer, and this is the first real closer they've had since Kenley Jansen. And Kenley Jansen's last really good year wasn't really, even though they won in 2020, he was kind of fizzling out in 2020. Unfortunately, I feel bad for him too because he did so many good things, and I wish he would have been the closer like a Mariano Rivera in some of those championship runs in 17 and 18, but things didn't go too well in the end with that. But this is the first one since him. So Edwin Diaz is the first true closer that the Dodgers have signed since Kenley Jansen. So the Dodgers, after one, I'm going to say 2020, he kind of, again, he fizzled out. So I'll give him credit for that one a little bit, even though he kind of struggled in the playoffs. But in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, you're talking about 5 years where they didn't really have a true closer. Now they have a closer. So imagine this, guys. Imagine if you got guys like Vesia, you have guys like I don't know if Trident might be able to bust out of whatever problems he had last year, but let's just use him there because he's a Dodger. He's a Dodger staple, obviously. He's won 3 championships with them. But if you've got that middle relief to where you can take it to the ninth, Evan Phillips is back. Thank God. One of my favorite relief guys ever. So imagine if you have like a Vesia, and then you have a Phillips, and then you have Edwin Diaz. Now, I didn't mention Tanner Scott because I have to wait for that one. Ideally, I would love to see Tanner Scott either in the 7th or 8th, depending on the lineup. So if you're going to see a lot of lefties, let's see if you're seeing a lot of lefties in the 7th inning. My guess is Robert's going to send Tanner Scott then, and then probably have Phillips be the guy in the 8th. If he, again, we need 7, 8, right? 7 and 8 needs to be solid. I feel very comfortable that Edwin Diaz is going to be very solid in the 9th inning. So imagine this starting lineup not having to pitch beyond 6. You got staples at 7 and 8, and then you have the ultimate closer, in my view, the best closer in the game in the 9th. These guys are not going to get stressed as much. No one, not the pitching in relief, not the pitchers that are starting. Obviously, the team that's putting up runs. Let's say if the Dodgers are putting up 4 or 5 runs a game, like they have been, you're going to have a lot of games where they're going to win 5-2, 5-3, 4-2, 4-1. That tends to be less stressful, and that's how I'm looking at this year. It's a little bit better in that area. And I say a little bit better because I don't know what Tanner Scott's going to be. If Tanner Scott is who he was in 2024, then this is obviously going to be huge. Now the pressure and the just the overall stress of that whole back end pitching is not going to be an issue, and I don't think they're going to get burnt out in a 162 game season. Kyle Tucker. Now, I didn't see Michael Conforto as a player that would be a regular for the next 5 years, right? I mean, they signed to a 1-year deal. Knew a little bit about him, didn't know a lot about him. I mean, I know who he was. I know what he did. Played in San Francisco and in New York. But I didn't know where I was with kind of the outfield situation with the Dodgers last year. We saw it develop in that Michael Conforto couldn't hit, and he was a substandard fielder. So what do they do now? Now they bring in someone who is a Gold Glove fielder, whose splits are identical. That is those are scary words for the opponent. Think about that for a second. You greatly advanced your fielding. So, and I'm not even talking about filling in as a fielder. I'm talking about they're moving Teo back to left, which analytics say he's better at right. I pay attention to my eyes more, and I thought he did better in left in 2024. And I believe that his groin issue, leg issue, I always hear groin or hamstring. I think it was groin issue in 2025 did play a part in him not being able to play all out. So when you saw Teo look like he was Cadillacing a lot of those gappers, I think he was worried about pulling his groin, because why would he hot dog it, right? But then there's evidence of Dave Roberts pulling him out of games. I never really got a clear answer out of that. I really didn't, unless they kept it like under wraps. I think what I figured out over time was maybe because we didn't hear any big noise out of the clubhouse. I think maybe that's what it was, and then maybe I'm just trying to be positive here, but maybe he was scared he was going to pop his groin, and he had to kind of stay steady. So you now move Kyle Tucker where Teo is. Now you have a guy that can basically take care of that right side of the field. You're not going to have to worry about all those gappers that you saw late in the season and in the playoffs. Kyle's going to catch up to those things, and now those doubles are going to be catches. That's huge. And then you have Teo in left, which you can obviously take in. You can shift things out. There's a lot of guys like Kike. Kike plays left pretty well, and you all saw that in the playoffs. Two times, not one, 2 times he was able to catch a fly ball and get the guy at second or at first in a double play from the outfield. And that's instincts, that's talent, that's clutchness. I mean, that's just what it is, right? So when you look at 2026 in the forecast then versus 2025, we were coming out of the first World Series when in a few years we felt like it was overdue, considering what the Dodgers had done since 2013. And then I think a lot of that kind of being comfortable, and then obviously you got into the season, and right out of the gate, the starters weren't really available. The bullpen got burnt out after 2 or 3 months because the Dodgers came out the gate pretty well, right? They were 8-0. They were playing well up until that damn series against Houston in July, and then after that, they couldn't hit a lick. But that's what was amazing, is they were so veteran-like. They were so unfazed by all the failures that they still were able to win a World Series with their C-plus game. And I think that's the part that's worse for somebody like Toronto. See, if Toronto was beating a team that was on its A game, you could kind of go, well, it's the Dodgers. They're stacked. They got all the, whatever. And, it is what it is. But I think the haunting part about this, and guys, I know that you're supposed to say, well, we weren't ready, or we screwed up, we'll come back next year. You don't get these back. It doesn't matter. For me, I still think about the '04 Laker title that they lost. I still think about the '08 title that they lost. Those last series, last game losses never go away, and they almost take over the wins in those series. So for Toronto, it's even worse, right? Because that's why it's worse for us for when we think about the 2004 Lakers. We're sitting there. Yeah, I know Carmelo was hurt. Yeah, I know GP and Phil were kind of butting heads. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that Shaq and Kobe are still in their primes in a series against a Detroit team that didn't have any kind of major stars on it, like a Kobe and a Shaq, I'm still going to lean towards saying Kobe and Shaq are supposed to figure this out. I know it's 5 on a court, but you're that great, and it's only 5 on the court. They had to have figured it out, and they didn't, and that was why it hurt so much. The '08 loss against the Celtics, the thing that burns me there is they were up 24 points against the Celtics at home, 20-point lead, well into the third quarter at home. Cannot lose that game. You win that game, now it's 2-2. And you have all the advantage and all the momentum. Kobe wins, Laker win game 5. They go back to Boston 3-2. I don't give a fuck who it is. I don't care if it's the greatest team of all time. You give Kobe a 3-2 lead and he's smelling blood, Kobe's closing that series in 6 in Boston. It would have happened. So those are the things I look at. And the Toronto Blue Jays, if you're as avid as some of us are, I think that's the part that probably burns, is you were at least 12 opportunities in finishing the Dodgers off. They should have finished the Dodgers off in 5. Really, if you really think about it. If Schneider essentially scores on that double before Teo relays to Edmund. Edmund gets him out at home plate. See, and that's the part with Teo. Teo does something that I really, really like in terms of his play. Whenever he screws up somewhere, he always seems to figure out a way to make up for it later. And that's all you should ask for, in my view. That's something you should ask. That if you're gonna screw up, can you make up for it? And Edmund did it all series long, even though he had a huge error in one of the big games. Teo obviously had some inabilities to get to the ball on defense. These type of things are gonna happen in a game, but at the same time, it's not accepted at the time, right? But what happens is they always seem to make up for it, and that's fine. That's fine. That's part of the game, and I'm glad that they do. As far as the 2026 season, I think that the theme of the year isn't. I mean, the three-peat is obviously the number one, but I think what I want to see is, can they get? Jeff alerted to this too as well. Can they put all 3 phases together in 1 year? And that's an interesting question. Think about it, right? 2024 was the year of the bullpen, where they won it with the bullpen. 2025 was the year of the starting pitching, won a championship with their starters. Their hitting was great in 2024. Their hitting was subpar in 2025. So you have this kind of like, you got 1 out of 3 pretty much the entire time, and then you have sort of a 2 out of 3 in one of the years. Can they do all 3? Can they hit well? Can they start their pitchers well? And can they finish well in the bullpen? And if all 3 phases are there, there is no way that this team is not going to win 110 games. It's going to come down to the season, right? And the only way you're going to know if this team is ready for all 3 phases, they're going to show that they're winning throughout the year. And at this point, I don't really care. I think the interesting stat that I realized the other day is the Dodgers have won 3 World Series without having to win 100 games during the regular season. It's an interesting stat that just kind of sort of popped up the other day. Obviously, in 2020, there wasn't 162 games. They were on pace. That was the best winning percentage I think they ever had. I think it was in the 700s, by the way. But it seems like maybe 100 wins is a curse. They've won 111. They won 106. They won 106 again. I think they won 103 in 2017, 104, something like that. I have to look back on that. And they never won. So if it means that they're not going to win 100 games, again, I don't think it matters. But for three phases to be on point, I guess the question is, do you want that to happen at the end of the year, or is that going to be something that's going to happen during the entire year? I don't really care, honestly. I think Doc and the Dodgers have earned anything that happens this year at this point, because when they went into the playoffs last year, they were abysmal on the road, absolutely abysmal, and they finished 4 series, even though the first one they never went on the road, but they were in 4 series and they went 7-1 on the road, and that one loss was off of a week and a half break. A week and a half break where they started that game with the lead and they couldn't kind of get over the hump a little bit. They would like get a run here, get a run there. They couldn't like break out because their hitting was so bad. So they lost one road game that entire run. And then they win the World Series, winning the last 3 games all the way up in freaking Siberia. What can you say? Beating Philly in Philadelphia both times. That's nuts. Milwaukee had the best record in the majors. Went in there, took them out in the first 2 home games there. To me, that earns the Dodgers really any kind of result at this point. There's only a couple series where I want them to win, to the where I'm probably going to be foaming at the mouth. Obviously, the Houston stuff. Obviously, the Yankees. I think they need to exert some revenge on the Angels. I think that's something that needs to happen. I'd like to have sometimes a little bit of caring during those times, because I used to watch the Red Sox and the Yankees in the early 2000s when their rivalry was at its peak. And those guys were trying to kill each other in May, in June, in August. I want that at least once in a while in the regular season. I want to enjoy the regular season when it comes to rivalry. I think that's good for the sport. And I'd like to see a sweep of the Yankees at some point. I don't like 2 out of 3. It's always 2 out of 3 with those guys. I want a sweep. I want them to sweep Houston. I think it's way overdue. And they owe the Angels a 6th spot for getting swept both times last year. So that's where I stand on that. Wow, you got a lot of messages here already. Shit. Let me get to you guys here one moment, guys. Let me see. Where are we here? Okay, son. Let me see the dunk real quick. I am watching a little bit of a clip here. Everybody's hitting me up on my group chat right now. Oh, nice. That was a nice dunk. Yeah. So this is the second time a Laker in the last, 12, 13 years that's in the dunk contest. Shannon Brown was an unmitigated disaster. It looks like Jackson Hayes was an unmitigated disaster. So yeah, good for Jackson. I hope he did. I hope he can sleep tonight. The whole All-Star aura is a joke, guys. I haven't even watched a clip of it. I just watched a video online. Dame Lillard's still the 3-point GOAT. I haven't checked that one out either. Rocky Rivera, what's up? Will Empire Jeff grace us with his presence? Well, I'll tell you what. Let me send him an invite. I'll see what he says here. Let me send it out to him here. It's Valentine's Day. He's a little more romantic of a guy than I am. My family's out on dance competitions. There's no such thing as Valentine's Day today. So let's see here. Where are we? I just sent Jeff a link. We'll see what he says. I'll let you guys know. Mac McClung saved it for a couple years. See, and that's the problem too, is you can't have a non-NBA guy doing a dunk contest. That's kind of dumb. But they had no choice, right? Thoughts on Muncy and Kike resigning? I was surprised at the extension for Muncy, but that's how the Dodgers do it. Loyalty. The fact that he's extremely underpaid for what he has done. This is the all-time home run leader in Dodgers history. Guys, the Dodgers are 141 years. Now they're going to be 142 years old. That's a pretty crazy stat. I know it's a little easier to hit for more stats in these days versus the first 80 years of baseball, because the championship series didn't start till 1969 in the majors. Before 1969, you won your division. Essentially, you won the pennant in your division, and then you went to the World Series. And then it became League Championship Series from 69 to 95. And then you had the wild card. And then it's been tweaked here and there with the little extra wild card and the extra this and extra that. So Muncy, without a doubt, played a huge part in saving the Dodgers, especially in Game 7. And it's not just Game 7. It's just bigger in Game 7 because he caught that liner by Jimenez. And I have no doubt that if he doesn't catch that, they probably score in that inning. And I know that they hadn't scored before, but there was a different momentum in that at that time. And that was almost like Muncy snatched their soul when he had that liner. They were going to bunt, and Jimenez could have bunted away from Muncy and gotten Clement to third very comfortably. And one more run in that series is over, right? So not only does he save a run there, probably, he adds to it by taxing the one guy that had been basically creamed all over during the series, because you have this young guy that they just kept talking about. Oh, he started in the minors, and now he's mowing down Shohei, he's mowing down Freeman, he's mowing down all these guys. A little bit of just loss of focus, a certain little hanger, and that happens, right? That happens even with the best of them. Left that little hanger there, and Muncy then taxed it and foreshadowed what was yet to come, because you just heard a huge bang when the ball hit and made for October in right field in the second mezzanine. And I just thought later, I wasn't thinking about it at that time, but later when I kept watching it, I said, look what Muncy did. He hit made for October, and it was loud. It was loud on TV. Imagine if you were there. It was loud. I mean, that looked like a shot off Madison Bumgarner. He would have those kind of home runs off Madison Bumgarner, so much so that Madison Bumgarner would get pissed at him for his slow trot. And then, of course, Max is like, when he hit it out into McCovey Cove in San Francisco, he'd always say, well, if you want me to shut up, go get the ball then. I thought that was pretty quick. So good for Muncy on that. So much like my attitude for the 2026 season, and you guys are probably used to me being a little bit more aggressive, because the 2025 Dodgers was supposed to be one of the all-time greats, and they weren't in terms of the regular season. I thought they were going to win 110 games and mow everybody down. They didn't. They couldn't really mow anybody down after July. But then they mowed everybody down in the National League run, and then they hit a little bit of a little engine that ended up being really a big engine, but they still were able to get past those guys with their C-plus game when that team was just on its A game the entire time, except in the clutch. So Muncy coming back, the fact that the Dodgers are back-to-back champions, I would never expect a three-peat from anyone. So this is going to be a very relaxing year because of the fact that I almost had a heart attack because of the World Series this last year. So it's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I don't think I'll ever get as nervous as I was. And I would have never guessed this. I would have never guessed this after watching Super Bowls of my team, Game 7s against the Celtics, the one that really had me taxed, that's a surprise to a lot of people was Game 3 against the Denver Nuggets in the 2009 Western Conference Finals. That game was what I was feeling during the World Series. I was so just dead, just heart dropped, chest caving in, because I had a very good feeling that if the Lakers did not win Game 3 in Denver after dropping Game 2, that they were not going to win that series. And now the Lakers will have not won the championship again after getting bounced by Boston the year before. So there was a lot of that, like the whole Kobe legacy, the Lakers winning 65 games. They just got out of that series that was nuts against Houston where they went 7. So that was the last time I remember that I think that I was at my most like affected. I was still nervous for Game 7 for the Boston Celtic game, and a lot of these Super Bowls, but there was this kind of slowness about certain series, and there was nothing worse, and I don't think there'll ever be anything worse in terms of in the moment stress than this last World Series. If you didn't have the weird competitiveness in me, you enjoyed it. If you were not a crazy fan, you enjoyed it, which people did. I was pissed at myself for being so nervous, and I was pissed at myself afterwards that I didn't enjoy it enough. I enjoyed it more after. I enjoyed it a lot more. So this next goal is I'm going to enjoy everything from beginning to end, even if they lose some stupid games here and there, even if they don't win the World Series next year. I'm going to be pretty content that, hey, look, these guys have since the Guggenheims have taken over, they have won 11 divisions, 12 playoff appearances, 5 World Series appearances, 3 World Championships. They have the best record. They have the best everything at this point in that time. It's been by far one of the best dynasty runs I think you could probably have. This is starting to go into that area of the Patriots between 2001 and 18? So that was an 18-year run. Dodgers right now are still going into year 3 of the Ohtani era. This is going to be much longer than 18 years. We're looking at probably a 20-year run. So imagine if in the next 8 years you have 3 more championships. Next 8 they win 3 more. I mean, we're talking about a 20-year run where your favorite team has been in the playoffs, has been producing some of the most amazing baseball games you'll ever see in your life. Yeah, that's the thing that I appreciated about the Laker run in 2000. Even when they weren't winning championships in certain years, what kind of games we saw. The 81-point game, the 62-3, the .4. We saw so much amazing games. The game winner against Phoenix in 06. We saw, as fans of the Lakers between 2000 and 2010, we saw not just greatness from our team in winning 5 championships, going to 7 finals. You saw some of the greatest games that you'll ever see in your life in anything. And the Dodgers have produced that. They've produced that since they've become this blue dynasty, which is what they are. They are a blue dynasty. They're going to win a 4th and a 5th and a 6th. I have no doubt that they're going to win at least 3 more with Ohtani there. At least 3 more. It's just this thing is too set up. It's set up too well. And if they three-peat, you're going to have to start to ask yourself, who's better? The Yankees of the late 90s and the Dodgers. And really, there's not going to be anybody else. You could probably put the A's of the 70s. They three-peated in 72, 73, and 74. The reason why they didn't go longer was because they had an owner that was a scumbag. Oh, where have we heard that before? And we all know that Reggie Jackson in his prime ended up leaving Oakland because of probably money disputes and ended up going to New York and ended up winning 2 more championships. So, championship series came into the majors in 69. So you have to factor in that A's team. You have to put that A's team in that discussion. So you have the A's of the 70s, the Yankees of the late 90s, and if the Dodgers three-peat, now it's really 3 teams as in terms of an argument for the best run by a team. Now, I know a lot of Yankee fans who are listening, if they are, you're wondering, hey, man, what about the Yankees during the Mantle era and the DiMaggio and the Yogi Berra era? I'm not that guy that takes away championships because it was before. No, I am not. But you have to look at the process of this. You have to look at the process. In the late 40s and early 50s, all you did was win your division and then go to the World Series. They only had to win 4 games to win a championship. In the majors now, what the Yankees did, they had to win 11. Dodgers have won 13 twice to win championships. That's a lot more games to win. And it's not just win. They're in playing more games also because they're not winning every series 3-0, 4-0, 4-0, right? So competition-wise, much like how when they're comparing Ohtani versus Babe Ruth, that's why the discussion of greatest of all time, especially with a gap like that, is it's just not a good comparison. I'm just going to say, of course, Ohtani is better than Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth played in an era where analytics and speed and eye contact and all that stuff were much slower. The ball was different. The game was different. The competition was different. I just like to say eras. Ohtani right now is the best baseball player of the 21st century. Sorry, Barry Bonds, but if you could pitch 100 miles an hour and actually do that, you could probably be there. But best hitter of all time, you can argue that. But again, I'm not going to get into the Bonds showy argument. I'm not trying to get into that argument. But the point is, the best player right now on the planet is Shohei Ohtani. I'm sorry, even the Aaron Judge people. I'm just. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. You can have your opinion, but the reality says it's him. And what's great about those 3 eras and why I like to pick those eras with circumstances, because at that time they had a championship series when the A's were playing. So they had to win 8 to win a championship, not 4. So at that time they had Reggie Jackson, right? Who was Mr. October, Mr. Playoff guy, the big stick, right? Because that doesn't happen all the time in baseball. I've talked about this before. Barry Bonds only went to 1 World Series. A-Rod went only to 1 World Series like 13 years later. Mark McGwire went to 3 World Series in a row, but he was part of an ensemble. It wasn't like when he was in St. Louis, they never really were at his peak in terms of his powers. They never really were competitive. Sammy Sosa, the Cubs were sort of competitive, but not really. So you never got a chance to see the best of the best like you do in football or in basketball. It's too individualized. It's too hard for one singular player that only bats 1 time every 9 and might pitch who doesn't pitch to make a difference in terms of winning unless the team is stacked a certain way. So what you have right now is a very rare thing. Because you could even say that the late Yankee teams didn't have a great player on it, right? You had 09 with A-Rod. A-Rod won 3 MVPs during the 2000s, but he wasn't going to World Series at his peak. They ended up kind of getting in 09. And then Matsui was the guy that won the MVP that kind of made the difference later in that year and ended up winning. So you don't get this best player on the biggest stage winning NLCS MVPs, having 3 home runs and 10 strikeouts in a game and going on base 9 times in a single game, having 2 home runs and 2 doubles and 5 walks all in one game, winning playoff games as a pitcher on the road. Like, no one does this. No one is doing it. Appreciate it. And baseball is popular because of that, because people love stars, and they love stars on the biggest stage. Why did we love movie stars? I always crack up at this thing with who gives a damn what movie stars think, and musicians and athletes. Yes, that there's a lot of truth to that. But the reason why the world loves these people is because they're not supposed to be real. There's something on a screen or on a stage where when they're performing, that's what we're in love with. And when they say don't meet your heroes, the reason why you don't want to meet your heroes is because they're not that person on the screen. It's fake a lot of times. The musician is not always that guy. Yes, you would think it'd be easier because that's you on there. You're not, you're Joe Smith, whatever, band guy. But a lot of those guys are not. They're terrible decision makers, and they're not good people a lot of times off that stage. The stage is what kind of maybe balances them out. Athletes, I mean, to me, that's the most talent in a lot of ways, because you've seen a lot of musicians and a lot of actors that aren't talented that make it due to just networking. But you can't really fake sports. Like, you can't fake a 40-inch vertical or someone who can dribble and dunk on people, right? But then again, Bronny James is in the NBA, so that kind of goes out the window too. But looking at, again, what's at stake here is the Dodgers are in a different era, even from the late 90s. You're talking about every team has 2 or 3 pitchers that are throwing 3 digits. You have every team that has every piece of data on every single thing. They have to almost all do the same thing. Don't face the lineup after 3 times or 4 times for sure. Everyone has the same script in a lot of ways because the data is so calculated. You cannot. The only thing that can separate you now is, again, that moment, which is not that far off from what it was before, but it's just harder now. So if you're asking me from a competitive standpoint, the Dodgers beat the Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays in consecutive seasons, and those 2 teams were pretty damn good. Now, the Yankees were horrible in terms of fundamentals, but a couple of hits here and there, Yankees could have won the World Series too. That's baseball. Even in 2020-24, even though it was a 5-game series and the Dodgers won 2 in New York, those are that series reminded me a lot of, and I don't want to compare in terms of making mistakes, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in terms of competitiveness, the 2024 World Series reminded me a lot of the 2009 NBA Finals. When you look back and you see 5 and a win, the Orlando Magic were highly competitive in the first 4 games. They should have won Game 4 if Dwight could just make a free throw. And yeah, and I think who was that rookie for Orlando? Dang it, I'm drawing a blank here. I know Aaron's going to probably say this, and I'm going to catch up to it like in 10 minutes. But there was a rookie guard that Orlando had, and he almost on an inbound almost alley-ooped it in, and then they would have won Game 2, I think, in LA in Game 2. It was close. Again, it was a closer series than 5. Same with 2024. Obviously, we saw what happened to the Toronto Blue Jays. So I would say that the Dodgers are due a Milwaukee Brewers type series in the World Series this coming year. If they can go ahead and stay healthy, organize their setup to where no one really gets burnt out, because again, you're talking about 3 years in a row here, right? There's been barely any chance of guys usually getting a back-to-back, let alone 3 in a row. But if they can go through this 162 game year with relative looseness, then they go into this next run and they win. There's going to be a discussion as the greatest team of all time. There's no doubt. And how do I judge dynasties? I think I'm basing it off of what the social dynasty is now in sports. If you're an 11 division winner out of 12, and you've been in the playoffs in baseball 12 years in a row, you've been to the World Series 5 times, you've won it 3 times, and again, those 5 World Series, Dodgers probably should have won. Dodgers won 2017, so I'll keep that there. 18, I'm softening up a little bit on this due to the fact that Mookie Betts was given to us for free. So I haven't been as hard on the Red Sox, even though they did cheat, and it's documented. I haven't been as hard on the Red Sox, and I want to make sure that's clear, because I don't want to sound like I'm a hypocrite, right? Because Mookie Betts obviously knew what was going on. Joe Kelly knew what was going on. But I'm thinking, okay, and maybe I soften up with the Houston Astros. Maybe we got Kyle Tucker, but then Kyle Tucker wasn't part of that team. Softening up, no, I'm not going to soften up. Houston clearly won that series because they had the advantage in 2 of the games they won at home. And if they just lose one of those games at home, the Dodgers win the World Series. And my frustration on that particular year is the fact that I was fully aware that Clayton Kershaw was going to win World Series MVP based off how he was pitching, and the fact that there were a lot of guys on that team, a lot of homegrown guys, a lot of guys that were there before things got really good, guys that got brought in that were discarded that no one talks about, guys like Justin Turner, guys like Chris Taylor. A lot of people didn't win a World Series that year, in a year where they were the best the whole year. And that's the sad part. They're not getting a ring. It's more for them, really, because I don't think we're going to really remember too much. I'm not saying me. I'm saying we as a fan base. If they keep winning World Series for the next 30, 40 years, at some point, you're going to just kind of let it get on with your life, right? But my not forgetting it is a reminder to let Houston know that your title doesn't mean anything. Now, if they had traded us, let's say Altuve in his prime, after they had done that, maybe it's a different story. My God, I think I just threw up in my mouth. But I'm at the talent part. But again, that's a discussion that will always be. And rent free in my head and all that stupid cliche bullshit has nothing to do with in my head. It's a reminder that your title doesn't mean anything. You won in 2022, but your 2017 title is not real. It's a joke. It's bullshit. And that's always going to be that. I'm going to remind Houston fans of that until I die. Just gotta have to deal with it. Let's see here. Dame Dollarham, can you talk about LAFC? No, son, I don't watch soccer, so I can't talk about that. The Ox should have invited Gerald and John. I always invite people. John is not available anyways. He doesn't know how to talk baseball or I mean, he'll talk Lakers, but baseball is not his thing. Or anything else, actually. Depends on your pitching staff, a little bit of timing. Let's see here. Where are we? Imagine a collaboration between the Ox and Professor. I'd have to. Somebody put that together, will you? Joe, what's one question you would ask Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley? One question. Is there a context to this? Give me a context. Yes, please hit the like button, subscribe. Even though I'm hearing subs don't matter anymore on YouTube, apparently, from what I'm hearing, it's engagement. So, but again, you do, it's easier to sub and notify, and then you can be engaged. Urias closed out 2020. The Dodgers have had a very similar ending to most of these championship runs. Their bullpen was amazing in 2024, but they still had wonky finishers. Walker Buehler closed out the World Series in 2024. Yamamoto closed 2025. Urias closed 2020. There hasn't been a hierarchy. There hasn't been a beginning, middle, and end. It's like we have to bring somebody from the beginning to end the game, or somebody in the middle, or someone out, whatever. So I cannot imagine. I mean, unless you want to do a walk-off again with unless you do a walk-off, you can't beat a walk-off, right? Joe Carter, Bill Mazeroski, of course. But I think that's asking for a little much. So more often than not, most of the endings in World Series is usually the closer closing the game up, right? Brad Lidge, Mariano Rivera, whatever. How cool would it be if the trumpets start and it's Game 6, World Series 2026, and Edwin Diaz closes out, let's say, New York again. At home this time. Because the Dodgers haven't won a World Series at home since 1963. So 65, 81, 88, 2020, 2024, 2000. So the last 6 World Series have all been on the road. I don't give a shit if they went on the road, Siberia, whatever. Doesn't matter. However, I think that would be central casting for a good ending, especially for a three-peat. Having Edwin Diaz close out. Let's go into this. Edwin Diaz closes out the Mets. Edwin Diaz closes out the Mets in the NLCS and then closes out the Yankees. I think that would be a cool story too. Although I do want Boston. I want Boston back, or I don't think Houston's going to be there, unfortunately. But Boston's trying to sort of win, and the AL's kind of I want revenge on Houston and Boston. And if you're going to continue the AL East run here for the American League, I'd like to see that be rectified a little bit. I would love to see the Dodgers beat Boston in the World Series. Would not be surprised. I think my prediction right now is my prediction last year was Detroit Dodgers, and Detroit's going to make a run here a little bit. You can tell they're there, but this Skubal thing is going to be the determining factor. If they're competitive at the deadline, I think they're going to go for it. I think they're going to risk not getting compensation for him to see if they can win a World Series, which is a crazy risk, right? But if they're competitive, I think they probably won't trade him, try to win a World Series, and then at that point they won't care. Okay, well, it was a World Series or bust, and we got the World Series. We lose Skubal for nothing, so what? We got a World Series, right? Okay, I'll roll with that. But I'm gonna say, in keeping up with the theme, the Dodgers played the Boston Red Sox in 18. They played the Tampa Rays in 2020, the Yankees in 2024, and the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025. Why not just go for the fiver and see if Baltimore can get there? So my prediction right now for World Series matchup is the Dodgers against the Baltimore Orioles. And this will be the revenge. You didn't think I was going to say this. This is revenge for 1966. The Baltimore Orioles kept the Dodgers from going back to back. So I think there's revenge for Baltimore. It's just 60 years later. Yeah. So that's my prediction on that. So, Chris, get ready, brother. My plan is either end of this next weekend or the weekend after that to come up for spring training. I'll let you know probably sometime around Monday, Tuesday. Will Ryan Garcia win his next fight? I don't know. That's a good question. Yes. Okay. Good talking. Dodgers versus Tigers. Aaron, it could happen. It could happen. Wouldn't be surprised. No counter arguments. Keep Skubal, let him get away. Artie Romero style, Detroit. Teo for 6 or 7 innings. Call Kike rest of the game. See, and that's the beautiful thing about having Kike, and I think that's the plan anyways. They know that. They have Kike when he gets back to help Teo finish off the year, and I think that's a good strategy. The only problem is, though, guys, is where are you going to put Kike when October comes? It's easier to remove Conforto out of there, but Pages, I guess Pages, if he's struggling, yeah, you could do some things there. But what if Tucker, Teo? You can't take Teo out. Teo's too clutch in the playoffs, guys. That's the other thing too that separates him from everybody. He is clutch. He is a clutch player. So who are you going to take out? If Pages glove and center is just too valuable, right? So if Pages is, I think he'll bat much better than he did in the playoffs this last year. So even if he's slightly better than this last year, you can't take him out. Can't take Kyle Tucker out. Can't take Teo out. Where are you going to put Kike? That's going to be a hard one to figure out. That's where I don't wish to be Dave Roberts. That's going to be a tough one. Joe, what did you get your lady for Valentine's Day? My lady's not here, guys. My kids and my lady are at a dance competition in Orange County for until midnight tonight, so I haven't had a chance to do anything. Malone and Peyton were hurt. Malone was hurt. Peyton was mentally hurt. Peyton turned into a little bit of a bitch, in my view. If he was a leader and kind of dealt with the process a little more, I think would have had a better shot at beating Detroit, but he was too busy whining. Joe, I want to say what's up to Kobe's statue today outside crypto. I remember the good times with him. Yeah. I try to not talk about Kobe a lot because I don't want to imagine him being gone. Ron Artest did the spectacular against Phoenix. Yeah, Game 5 was. It's funny you say that, Aaron. I actually just watched that last night. I have a lot of stuff that I have in my little server that I'll download, and before that shot went in, that last second putback by Ron Artest to win Game 5 in the 2010 Western Conference Finals, he had shot a wide open three with a minute left when they had just gotten the rebound. So at that time, they still had the 24-second clock, even after a missed shot. And I remember everyone was just like, what are you doing? You should have, taken the ball out. I mean, Ron was wide open. And it's interesting that we look at that particular play and we question ourselves. Again, in the end, he made up for it, but he made a worse decision in a lot of ways and had more, I guess, interference in the shot in Game 7 against Boston. Although it was different circumstances, it wasn't off a rebound to run out the clock with the lead. But I thought what he did against the Celtics was the one that was scarier. Wide open shot, have the lead, a minute left. What ended up happening after that is Phoenix went down and they missed the shot anyways. So it didn't really matter. But I think it's just funny that I still remember what was going on with that. Joe, Iran or Israel? So, son, I'm gonna explain something to you here, okay? The problem with society is there always has to be this duality. And that's how they keep you in control. You got to be on one side or the other side. That's not how I work. I judge things by merit, number one. I judge things by situations. So if there's an Israeli guy who's a piece of garbage, I'm going to then judge that person. I'm not going to go judge his sister, his uncle, his great uncle, everyone in his village. I don't look at dualities. Duality is the ultimate, beyond ultimate in controlling human beings. That's why a lot of these schlep rocks are doing what they're doing, is because they're online. They've got an angst. A lot of them are stupid and retarded. They have no lives, and they just got to create this duality of you versus me because that's what has been put out there, and they're eating it up. I have best friends that are from Iran, and I have Jewish friends. So how am I going to go and sit there and go, well, I'm on Iran's side? Okay, well, why? Why would I be on Iran's side? Why would I be on Israel's side? I've never even been to fucking Iran. Never even been to Israel. What does that even mean? So you're asking me to base my opinion off of what I've seen on TV or what some opinion on some person is. It's not how I operate, but I do my own thing. I have certain things that I do get on certain people. Not a big fan of beta men. Not a big fan of angry women. Usually people that are leaning a little bit too left. But I have a lot of friends that are lefties. I'm not going to go drive a truck, drink beer, and listen to country music either. So where are we going here? Like, why do I got to be on one side or the other? And I'm not going to tell you I'm in the middle either. It's a scale. It's like a marriage. Politics, social stuff is like a scale. You got sometimes it's 100%. Don't hurt children. Don't abuse women. Don't murder innocent people. That's 100%er. Then you go back and forth, depending on the subject. And then that's how you make your assessment. But as soon as somebody gets on you, as soon as they start labeling you, you got them. You got them because they're programmed to be mind slaves. And that's what it is. All this Israel and all this Iran, all this stuff is all about control and power and how to get away with shit. This is why I have my own business. This is why I don't like people a lot. I love good people, though. A lot of good people out there. You just got to find them. Don't allow yourself to be stupid and controlled. If you do that, you're not going to have these problems. That's my life coaching program for the night. Number of comeback wins also will show how dominant they can be. Oh, yeah, big time. 2017, there were so many comeback wins. And, yeah, there's a lot of similarities to 17 and now. Man, I'm just amazing games. I was able to watch 2025 comebacks throughout the year. It was fun watching those two on YouTube. 3 in the Bronx. The Boston comes to LA for 3. Yeah. I want a sweep of the Yankees. I'm tired of winning 2 out of 3. What are your thoughts on wife going to party with her girlfriends? How do you handle that? I don't mind it at all. I party. When I party, I'm with a lot of people too, and she doesn't seem to be bothered because more often than not, I'm not really an approachable guy. You have to know me. This goes with anybody, by the way. This is not just women. It's grown people, children, doesn't matter. I don't have the aura of welcomeness. I have to sometimes maybe show a little bit of a smiley face just to kind of calm things a little bit. Like I was at the dentist the other day and there was a new dental hygienist and we got into a conversation about, nice versus mean. And of course, my dentist, she knows who I am. We're cool. We talk and she has one of her older dental hygienists and her and I are tight. The reception and I are tight, but she was new and she didn't know how to talk. And then of course, as the conversation goes, one of the things I try not to do is I try not to be the old guy that tells stupid jokes. Because I hear that a lot of times. I'll be at a store or wherever. you can tell this guy is not funny at all. He's trying to sort of control the room with some kind of calmness, but he's totally failing. And of course the person's trying to placate him or whatever. I always try not to have that kind of aura. So whenever I'm in conversations with people who don't know me, especially when it's women who, and most of the women I meet in my life, I'm 6'3", and when I wear shoes, I could be a little taller too. And I'm a wide guy. So I usually tower over the 5'5", 120 pound, 150 pound female. And that's automatically going to be scary. I mean, it's funny. I have walked into stores. I'm talking about public stores and scared the shit out of people just walking in. So it's weird how that kind of changes your approach in how you walk around. Like I have to, if I'm walking behind a female in a garage area or a parking lot, I will deliberately walk sideways to my destination. So I'm not walking right behind her. Because if she turns around and looks at me, she's going to get scared. I have a kind of a determined walk too. It's not a casual walk. It's very determined. So, yeah. My wife doesn't have to worry about me and I don't have to worry about her. We've laughed about it. Like, what would you do if Brad Pitt wanted to hang out? I think one of her favorites back in the day was Justin Timberlake. That's because she likes his music and his aura or whatever. But she liked those surfer boys. I remember she was dating a lot of, when I hear about her history, she dated a lot of the blonde-haired surfer type pretty boys, right? All the Point Break type guys, right? Then she meets this ogre Shrek Middle Eastern psychopath, and for some reason she fell in love. So here we are. Whatever. Again, at the end of the day, who's going to protect her? Some doily, blonde haired with sand in his hair, or a guy like me, right? The women want protection in the end. They want protection. They want to be provided for. And if you do that, they're going to do everything for you. And at least that's how it worked out for me. Good veering off the subject there, man. Thanks, Left on Base. Shannon was the shit that night, to quote. Hey, I got a question for you, Aaron. I know I'm not going to get to you for about 20 minutes, but who is a bigger whiner in wrestling, Bret Hart or Jesse Ventura? Because every time I see those two schmucks online or whatever, they're always bitching about something. They're worse than two old ladies in a sewing circle. Brown embarrasses Kobe that dunk contest. Yeah, but see, I didn't understand why, and I didn't understand why Jackson Hayes was in the dunk contest. They are in the moment dunkers. They're not creative dunkers. So I don't know why he went. I don't know why he did it. But again, at least he tried. At least he had the balls to try. Valentine's Day is not real. Again, Valentine's Day, just like Christmas is, just like St. Patrick's Day, it's a way for capitalism to show its face. You buy flowers, you buy chocolates, you go out and drink beer, and during St. Patrick's Day, you buy green stuff. It's like a fun, festive thing where you can go buy stuff and hang out and make a day of it. That's really what it is. Max is a all-time Dodger legend. So, Aaron, it's funny you say that. I was talking to Jeff about this. So we were going over the numbers, right? So let's go over this for a second. We're talking about there are 12 Hall of Famers. I'm sorry, 12 Dodgers jerseys that have been retired. 12, right? This last run, you have probably at least 6 that are going to be retired. So you have Mookie. Don't forget Dave Roberts, because Walter Austin's up there as well as Tommy Lasorda. Hold on one second here. Sorry. You have Kershaw, 22. Will Smith's going to have his retired. Muncie's going to be retired. Freeman's going to be retired. You have 6 guys right now, and Kershaw's now out. Kershaw is now out of the group after 18 years, right? So you have Mookie, Dave Roberts, Kershaw, Will Smith, Muncy. How do you not put Muncy up there, right? Like, Muncy has to be up there. I don't think they're going to put Kike's up there unless they win like 6 in a row. Unless they win 6 in a row and he wins I don't know how that would work. Now, I'm just talking about the guys now. But don't you have to put Justin Turner up there too? I think Bellinger didn't stay long enough, so I don't think he's going to go up there. Here's a hard one. Again, I'm going to catch up to you guys as much as I can here because I'm behind. So I'll probably get an answer later in the next, 10 minutes. But here's a problem. You're going to have a 2-time World Series MVP, NLCS MVP, that probably won't be retired because Freddie Freeman wore Corey Seager's number. So what are they going to do with Corey Seager? Corey Seager could be a Hall of Famer. You cannot not put him in there either. So are you going to retire 2 number 5s? That's an interesting question. That is an interesting question. If I was, let's say, D-Mac, who runs the Dodgers Nation, I think that's a good question that you should ask. If anybody's out there, tell them to ask that question. What do you do? What do you do? We know Freeman's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Corey's there. You can't win 2 championships and win 2 World Series MVPs without being considered at this point. If Corey Seager continues to do what he's doing here in the next 5 to 6 years, it's very likely he's going to the Hall of Fame, and he won with the Dodgers. He was Rookie of the Year with the Dodgers. Do you have 2 number 5s up there? That's an interesting question. He's up there with all of them. Let's see. Hey, Joe. Hey, Jay, how you doing, bud? Astros series in Houston from May to Man, I really want them to win every damn game on that one. They're due. Hey, Joe, how many game Lakers going to win by the end of the season? I'm going to say they're going to win 50. I think they're going to win 50. If they want to get the third seed, I think they're going to have to win 53 or 54. That's kind of where I'm at on that. Remember, they're not leaving the West Coast until mid-March. So when this is over, they're going to be in LA for 3 weeks. I'm sorry, on the West Coast for 3 weeks. So if they can't sustain their winning ways, so to speak, with a schedule like that, then at this point, there's really not going to be any shot. But they're at 37, they're at 33 and 21 right now, and I don't see how they can't. I just don't see how they cannot go 17 and 11. Is that right? No. Did I get that right? Yeah. Yeah. They have to go 17 and 11. I think I got it wrong the other day on LFB. I think it was 17 and 9. I don't know why I thought 17 and 9. It was actually 17 11. So can they go 17 and 11, playing 3 of those weeks without having to leave the Pacific time zone? I think they can win 50, but I think they're going to need 53 to 54 to get that third seed. Third seed now puts them in a position where they have home court at the beginning to start this thing, and I think they'd probably play a team that I think they could beat. If I had to take a guess on who it might be, I mean, would it be Houston? Let me look at the standings here real quick. Right now, it would be Minnesota. Yeah. I don't know how Denver's going to play out of this. I'd say if I had to pick like comfortably, I could see the Lakers getting the 4. And then at that point, they're probably going to play Houston or Minnesota. Denver gets the 3, San Antonio gets the 2. Obviously, Oklahoma City's still at the 1, although they're only 2 games ahead of San Antonio. So those 2 could switch. So if Oklahoma City doesn't value the 1 seed, if they continue to kind of play the way they have the last month, and the Spurs go off, those guys could switch spots. So now one or however that plays out, it plays out. That actually might be better for the Lakers in the long run. Because I'd rather play an inexperienced Spurs team in the second round than Oklahoma City. So that's something to watch. That's something to watch. Game 7 of the 2010 finals is that game for me. So draining, but euphoric in the end. See, they were down 13 in that third quarter, and I was nervous as hell, but I was accepting what was happening. For some weird reason, I was expecting. I accepted it already at that point. And then, of course, they came back. And then as the game went on, I felt that you could see it. You could see that the Celtics were running out of gas. Game 6, they got blown out. That was a bad sign for them. And then they were able to muster enough juice to do what they did in the first 3 quarters of that game. And then they ran out of gas in the fourth. You could see it. And even KG had talked about that. He goes, we couldn't move. They could not move because they were supposed to be in the finals that year. They were a 4 seed. At that time, you never really ever saw a 4 seed go to the finals on a regular basis. It was always, top 3 usually, 2 for sure. So the Lakers were a little bit more in shape to win that thing, and they weren't in that great a shape either. They were pretty broken at that point. I think Kobe's knee was getting to that bad area of deterioration. His shooting finger was destroyed. I think Pau Gasol was probably mentally exhausted for 3 years having all that pressure of winning. I think that he kind of ran out of gas. You saw the year later. Derek Fisher was getting older. His defense was getting even worse when it was already bad 10 years earlier or 6, 7 years earlier. Artest, I think, peaked at that point. That was his peak in terms of his talent and his ability to compartmentalize what he needed to compartmentalize. And bring it into winning. I think you never saw a better Ron Artest than in 2010. Talent-wise, earlier, yes. But in terms of his mental focus and his talent and what he did in the end, they don't get Ron Artest. And this is not a derogatory comment towards Trevor Ariza. It's simple size that changed that series. If you don't get Ron Artest and you have Trevor Ariza, you re-sign Trevor Ariza to guard Paul Pierce, I don't think the Lakers beat the Celtics in the 2010 finals. Ron Artest set the tone in that series the first possession when he was fucking with Paul Pierce under the basket. And Ron Artest deserves a lot of support and a lot of good graces for what he did in 2010. And even as a Laker in general, I thought he was as fun to watch, as great. He did some things, that elbow to James Harden. Yeah. I mean, we don't accept it now because we're a softer society, but I'm used to that kind of basketball. If somebody starts to piss you off, you got to knock them over a little bit to kind of wake them up, and that's what they did. Now it's straight murder. Now people get all weird and, oh my God, I can't believe Isaiah Stewart stormed this court. Let's kill her. Relax. We know it's against the rules. We know he's stupid, but no one's getting murdered here. Relax. It's fucking sports. It's competitiveness. It's stupidness sometimes. And a lot of times that's entertaining. And it helps you kind of get a little bit of that fuck you feel out of you, right? Like when Bynum elbowed J.J. Barea when he was driving to the basket. Everybody's sitting there calling Andrew Bynum a piece of garbage, whatever. And I'm like, good. Fuck J.J. Barea. I know LeBron was saying that when he saw it. That was before he saw J.J. Barea, though. So maybe he didn't. Nobody could score a damn bucket the entire first half. Yeah, they were all taxed, dude. They were all taxed. This background is fire. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Mark. Hit the flags. Thank you. 1985 Lakers Celtics was gut wrenching until Magic hit that baby sky hook. 1985, actually, Craig, that was in 87. Baby hook was in 87. 85 was redemption for the botched 84 series. I have watched the 84 series and the document of that, and I'm surprised that James Worthy didn't get, and that's because there was a redemption, so that's probably why, because Bill Buckner never got redemption. Like the Red Sox didn't come back in 1987 and win the World Series, and Bill Buckner ended up being whatever, right? So I get it. But James Worthy turning the ball over to Henderson late in game 2 in the 84 finals cost the Lakers a championship. And not only did it cost the Lakers a championship, it changed history in a immense way. So follow me when I say this. The Lakers whooped Boston in 84, and they whooped Boston. They whooped Boston in Boston when no one ever was whooping Boston in Boston. So they get out of game 1, 1-0. They have a 2-point lead late. I'm talking like 30 seconds left. All he's got to do is inbound. Well, the ball was inbounded, and then he turned it over, not getting the ball to the right guy, right? I don't know if he was passing to Byron Scott. I can't remember. If he doesn't turn that ball over, the Lakers likely run out the clock, whatever. I mean, I guess Larry Bird could have probably hit a 3 and won the game, sure. But the likelihood was very low. The Lakers probably win that series. No. Probably win that game, and then they definitely win the series because they're winning the first 2 games in Boston. They win that series. They probably sweep them at that point. If the Lakers win in 84, looking at how everything else turned out, Magic Johnson would have had 6 NBA championships, beating Boston all 3 times, beating Bird all 3 times. The Lakers would have had 6 championships in 10 years in the 80s. By far and away, probably the greatest basketball dynasty ever, even more so than the Boston dynasty of the 50s and 60s because of the competition, right? Again, I'm not here to argue who's better. I'm just saying based off the competition, because I don't think anybody can really argue that 23 is much bigger than 8 and 7, right? And the fact that the 80s was the most highly competitive era of basketball in any era. It doesn't matter, 90s, 2000s. I don't think anybody can argue against that if you look at the details. You're talking about the best of the best, and then those guys like in Dallas and Denver and Houston, those guys were amazing too. You had a team with Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon, who only went to the finals once and lost. That's how good Boston and the Lakers were in that decade. So, and some of those teams, those Utah teams with Karl Malone and Jazz, took those Laker teams to 7. The Dallas teams took the Lakers to 7. The Philadelphia Sixers were competitive at the beginning of the 80s. I mean, you're talking about as good a competition as you're ever going to get. So the Lakers win 6 and 10. Magic has 6 championships. Magic sweeps the Celtics. He beats his rival in every finals game or final series of their career. How does Magic Johnson's career look in terms of the all-time great? See how that one thing changed everything? And it's very likely that Magic wins another Finals MVP in '84. He was on track. So he would have had 4 Finals MVPs instead of 3. So that one bad pass determined history in so many ways. And I talk about this with Kobe and Shaq in terms of their finals losses and how those losses changed their history, and how had they won those, and they should have because they were favored each one, had they won those, their ascension is above what they are even now. That winning in that game changes everything. The reason why Michael's the greatest, based off of that. It's based off of that. 6-0 in the highest stage. No one gives a shit about losing in the Eastern Conference Finals in the first round, second round. If Jordan had only won 2, yeah, okay, there's a difference between 2 and 6. But the fact that Michael went to the finals 6 times and won all 6, not only won all 6, but he was the determining factor by winning 6 finals MVPs, it's difficult to sit there and say that doesn't matter. That calculates different than 4 and 6. Fair or not? When you look at LeBron's career, when you look at Magic's career, Kobe and Shaq, they all have a different story in a way. But in the end, sometimes maybe a little luck does help. I think one of the things that I've said for years that I don't talk a lot about is, other than Game 6 of the 1998 Finals, Michael Jordan never had any major injuries from any of his teammates during those runs. Magic and his teams did. Kobe and his teams did. LeBron lost the 2015 Finals because Kyrie and Kevin Love were out. And he went up 2-1 by himself with almost the same kind of talent he had in 07. What was his name? What was that guard's name? Dellavedova? That was like the second best player they had at that time. So when you look at the 4 and 6 record of LeBron, there's a few things you got to factor in there. First and foremost, when the comparison is there, it's more about the basketball part, not so much the accomplishment. But when you also factor in the accomplishment, the moments, you have to understand, like Michael Jordan would have never been shut down or looked like a fool in front of a guy like a J.J. Barea, right? But then at the same time, LeBron had some shit luck. So if LeBron just had his guys there in 15, they beat the Warriors. And if Durant doesn't take the easy route, it's very likely that he probably three-peats. They probably win in 15, 16, and 17. Maybe even in 18. Depending on how things would have worked out, right? So there's 2 or 3 titles in there that, unfortunately, for for LeBron due to certain circumstances. And I try to use the example of, well, imagine if in the 80s, let's say, I'm sorry, the 90s, imagine if Reggie Miller went to New York. By the way, that almost happened. I think it was in 96. What if Reggie goes to New York? Let me see here. Hold on a second here. Give me a minute, guys. I'm sorry. Now I'm getting all diving into all this. Miller going to New York. To New York in the 90s. What was it? Let's see. Almost. I guess this is something I should research, and I'll do it on the next show maybe. Almost playing for New York, maybe. I have to look at this. Sorry, guys. There was a moment where he had a chance to go to New York, but let's just say hypothetically, let's say Reggie Miller went to New York in 1992. Does Jordan beat New York in 92 and 93? New York took him to 7 in 92, and then we're up 2-0 in that series in 93. If you have Reggie Miller on that team, it's very likely that New York wins that series. So that's kind of the same scenario there. But my comparison in terms of the GOATs is based off of the talent scenarios too. Like Michael never, I don't remember Michael really ever failing in the big stage. He didn't. He may have not been in shape in 95 and got picked by Nick Anderson. He may have lost to all the early Larry Bird teams, but Michael played on a team with a bunch of cokeheads the first couple of years, and he still dropped 69 in the Garden. So it's not the same. This is still a team sport. You got to be able to gauge scenarios a little bit better. So 20-point comeback against Dallas. I was watching that game at my buddy Adam's house. They were down 27 in going into the fourth quarter, and I probably the best regular season game I ever saw Kobe and Shaq play. Craig, mate, you're the best. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mickey Mouse, all trash. Lakers suck. See, I knew Tony was going to come in here and pull out his bullshit. You suck, Tony. How about that? You like that? That's what I think of you. Courtney Lee. Thank you, JY. Courtney Lee. I don't know why I always remember the C, but I don't remember that girly name that he had. Oral closed out 1988. So the 88 run, I always laugh. Like there's a video of Tommy Lasorda, and he's mic'd yelling at Jesse Orozco because he sucked in one of the games, and he's like, "I don't give a fuck what you do." And Ron Peronowski, who was the pitching coach at the time, I remember there was a lot of that going on. So yeah, and even in '88. The Dodgers weren't the Dodgers. The last 4 World Series wins, they were still jumping all over the place. They didn't have a set ABC setup. I think this might be the year, guys. I really think this is going to be the year. I think Edwin Diaz is going to win. I think he's going to win. If they get to the World Series, I think he's going to be the guy that puts the final game away. I'm gonna predict that. Oh man, that's funny. Good memory. I was watching Olympics. Noticed Joe was on. Yeah, my plan was to have a show this week, and then it didn't happen until today. Today was the only day I could kind of focus and really sit down and do some things. Sorry, guys. The prime example of a swing voter. I haven't swung a lot lately, guys. I'll be honest. I live in California, and Democrats here have destroyed this city, the state, in a lot of ways. Not enough to get me to leave, because I have a large ego, and I think it would bother me if they chased me out of a place that I do like. But it's much easier for me to work around the politics and the taxes here because of my business. Now, if you're a W-2 person, if you're a pension person, horrible place to be. Oh, if you're a billionaire too. If you're rich and you don't have a business If you're rich and like really rich, and you have a business and you want to not destroy your stocks and all, yeah, this is a horrible state to be in. I would never open up anything in California in terms of that kind of setup. I have a landscape construction business. It's a little easier for me. I'm not making, $10-20 million a year. Not yet, anyways. And even if I was, there would be ways to figure out a way to go work in Nevada, go work in Texas, so that I can supplement what I'm getting destroyed in over here. What you pay for in California is the weather. You don't pay for the freeways. Obviously, that's a disaster. The roads suck here. People are okay. Business is good here, obviously, for what I do, so that's good. My family and my friends are here. I have a lot of family in Arizona as well. But yeah, I'm not a big Democrat fan. I'll be honest. I think the JFK Democrat, yes, but those guys now are really more moderates and right leaning. Like, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's not what the psycho lefty person is now. Now those guys are all about give me what I want. And I don't know necessarily if that's politics. I think that's just the fact that society has allowed adolescent adults a forum to be relevant, and they're not. Most of these people are slops. They're sloppy. They're ugly. They're not ugly in terms of looks. Well, a lot of them are ugly in looks, but ugly in the inside. And they hide behind this. We're trying to be more equal. We're trying to be more accepting, and you guys are not letting us be accepting. I'm like, look, asshole. There's a lot of things in life that need to be just basic. We don't need to have radicalism everywhere. And definitely not in schools. When you have children, all bets are off. I don't give a fuck what you think. Children are the first place all bums go to make their point, because that's the easiest people to manipulate. That's why drug dealers like to go after teenagers. They want to create their customer base early. They want that 16-year-old smoking weed, because you know what's going to happen in 5 years, 11 years? Maybe they might buy more weed, and maybe they might buy some blow, and maybe they might buy some heroin. Who knows? That's how it works. I'd make up the rules. And when you don't police this stuff correctly, I have a lot of people in law enforcement, a lot of people in the military, Border Patrol, CHP, a lot of people. I go by what they say because they're at the front line. And those guys will get blamed for shit because of one Nimrod who doesn't know what he's doing. And that's the thing that always cracks me up. One side or the other, they'll pounce on this one random asshole who fucks up, and then that person is blamed for an entire faction of people. Total ignorance at that point, right? Bad cops are out there. Bad people are out there. More often than not, everybody's kind of just wants to live a normal life until they're bored and they want to go mess with things. Then, right or not, you put yourself in harm's way. That's on you. Listen, I'm going to use the same comparison that I've been using. Just because the bike lane is there doesn't mean your ass isn't going to get hit by a car. Right or wrong, it doesn't fucking matter. You got your back to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pound vehicles, depending on what it is, or more. And because you think this invisible line is your right of way, you think you're not going to get hit, right or wrong? Like, your life means more than being right in your head. Because steel and rubber running your ass over don't give a fuck about what's right. So it's your responsibility to be a person who's, I would say self-preservation is important. Doesn't matter what it is. Self-preservation. Don't be a statistic. Don't be stupid. You're going to be a tough guy or a tough girl. Make sure you understand the consequences. And more often than not, they don't. And then all the people that are sitting in their underwear, jerking off on the toilet, watching the 15,000th reel on their Instagram, They're the ones now are commenting about what's going on and how things should be run. Those fucking people think that they know how to run things. Okay. Go play Sims or whatever and do it there. Politics is another cancer. When politics becomes too loud, that means it's already went over the hill, went over the cliff. This is not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be limited government is something I do champion. Too much government this is what happens when you let government control your shit too much. Left, who gives a fuck? Yo, it's Joe Soro. Hopefully, Gerald joins. I didn't send I didn't send anything out to Joe. Did I? Hold on. I didn't send out anything. I mean, I did send out something for Jeff, but I just kind of threw it out there because somebody mentioned it. But it's Valentine's Day. I'm assuming these guys are hanging out with their women. Joe Soro, do you remember the first time you went to a sports event as a child with your father? Yes, I do remember the first. It was the Golden State Warriors against the LA Clippers in the old Oakland Coliseum. I was his friend and his friend's brother. I still have pictures of it. I saw Manute Bol. I remember seeing Manute Bol walking through the tunnel to get to the locker room. Yeah, I still have that visual in my head. Went to a lot of games. I grew up in Central Valley. Turlock was the city. Same place Colin Kaepernick's from. And saw a lot of games at Oakland Coliseum, both the arena and the A's, where the A's played. Saw a lot of Dodger Giant games at Candlestick. Hated Candlestick. Fucking hated Candlestick. Candlestick was the shittiest stadium on the planet. It always was cold when I got there in July. I used to wear shorts and a T-shirt, and it would be freezing in July over there, right? Stadium sucked. I saw Steeler-Niner games there. It was either raining like crazy or the fucking lights went out. Fucking shitty neighborhood. I mean, you would think San Francisco being this elegant place, man, they always stuck the worst places for anywhere I went in San Francisco, except for Pier 39. Pier 39 was a good spot. I used to go to the Bubba Gump's shrimp there, and it was nice. But Candlestick was a shithole. The Oakland area, believe it or not, at that time was actually kind of cool. Saw a lot of Steeler Raider games there. Saw a lot of Steeler Niner games. A lot of Dodger Giant games. At the time when I was growing up, they didn't have interleague play at the time, so I wasn't able to see an A's Dodger game there. But it was great. We would go there every now and then. It was great to see stuff live. Got a ball. I remember got a ball. Bobby Bonilla. It was Mets and Giants. It was a Mets and Giants game, and Bobby Bonilla was in between innings and was playing catch. And I think whoever threw him the ball, it got past him, and then I saw the ball come up, and I had missed a ball like 5 minutes earlier, and then I was able to get it, and I had gotten a ball. It wasn't during play, but I was pretty proud of myself. I have that ball still, and I labeled it, and it was the score of the game and everything. So yeah, I saw a lot of ball games with my pops. God rest his soul. It was a good time growing up. Joe, Point Break is a perfect movie. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, Chris. That movie is that ending, that music by Rat. Woo, woo. Props to Catherine Bigelow, man. Let me get my little applause thing here. Hold on. Catherine Bigelow directed a perfect movie. Keanu was the perfect dope in that movie. Patrick Swayze was perfect. His crew was perfect. Gary Busey was perfect. Lori Petty was the perfect pain in the ass and love chick. Like the surfing thing, the bank robbing thing, the lingo, the just what was it? War Child. when they're confronting Johnny Utah, he's like, nope, we're just gonna fuck you up. I've used that line so many times when there's a discussion. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna fuck you up. A lot of my friends know where it's from, so we would always laugh. Great topic there, Chris. Definitely an all timer. Matter of fact, that story then was reinvented, if you will, in a car world. Should I tell you what it was, or should I throw a little bit of a trivia for you guys till the end of the show? So, what theme from the 21st century in terms of a movie matches Point Break? Answer at the end of the show. So subscribe and like, and then you'll find out. Just remind me at the end of the show in case I forget. Hayes. Yeah. I don't know why I was surprised when he was going to go into that. He's not I know he went under the legs and hit, dunked it, but that's not a surprise anymore. That was a surprise in the 90s. It's not a surprise now. It is a surprise during a real game, but not in a dunk contest. I lost Jeff to the Dodgers, sadly. What do you mean you lost, Search? I don't get it. Has never looked nervous where it was Lakers supporter out there. Spurs are representing Joe. Yeah, that's a lot more pressure when everything's on you, right? But Yoshinobi will be retired. Justin Turner is definitely there for me. Oh shit! Forgot about. Oh man, how the hell did I forget Yamamoto? Holy shit! My God, there might be 8. There might be 8 jerseys retired in the next decade. 8. So you got Mookie Betts, Roberts, Kershaw, Yoshinobi Yamamoto, Will Smith, Justin Turner. Wow. Max Muncy. Shit, man. And then you might have to retire one of those numbers twice. That's crazy. That is crazy. So, again, in case you guys forgot, Justin Turner's number 10. But here's the other problem with that is Ron Say's number is 10. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. That's hilarious. I forgot about Yamamoto. Experiment. Do the Dodgers have a ring of honor? It's just retired jerseys. That's it. They don't really have a ring of honor. Well, it's the same thing. I love the Dodgers. When I was a kid, I went to Dodgers games all the time, but Jeff was discovered covering the Lakers. Jeff went full nerd Dodgers. I'm going to say this. He's my boy, so he'd understand. I hope he didn't go full Dodgers because they're winning versus the Lakers not winning. I don't think that's the case because it's very difficult to support who's running the Lakers right now. And overall, the sport is trash. So there's some merit there. But see, the thing is, just like how I explained to you, I'm not. California is a shitty state to be in terms of trying to keep your money and be successful in a lot of ways. You ain't getting me out. I think when things go bad, that's when you need to be there more. Because if I leave now, what's gone on gets better in terms of their way of getting what they want. I'm there. I'm here to be the thorn still. So the more people like me stay during the bad times to kill what's bad, the better chances of things at least evening out a little bit, right? So by being on Lakers Fast Break and going through all this shit of why are we watching this trash product and why are we, because we're the problems, right? We're complaining yet we're still watching. That's worse. If you're complaining and you're not watching, then you're doing what you're supposed to do. But if you're complaining and you're watching, you're a fucking idiot. But my thing is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. New leadership is coming. Old stuff is leaving in 2 months. So we were here for the bad parts, and then we were going to be here for the good parts, and that's a good thing. I think the real intrigue will be in the offseason. Lakers will build an epic front office. See, and that's the thing. They're going to build. It's guaranteed that they are going to have. You don't have a salary cap where the resources are going to be. What you think? You think Sam Presti in Oklahoma? You think that whole crew? What makes them even more amazing? They don't have Mark Walter money. They're just really good at delegating, at hiring the right people, at preparation, at drafting. Now imagine having that with the resource. That's what Mark Walter is. The Oklahoma City Thunder are very similar to the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays they're everything you'd want to be in a lot of ways. They are a team that doesn't spend a lot of money, yet stays competitive. They're a functioning, operational, winning organization. And they've been there for a long time. Guys, these guys went to the World Series twice with this. Friedman was there for one of them, and they continued it even when he left. And they were close to winning in 2020. They were close. Kevin Cash, thank you very much for taking Blake Snell out of Game 6. Thank you. Pulling Dave Roberts at the time. They could have won that series. I don't think they could have beat Philly in 08, but these guys are playing against the Yankees, the Red Sox, most of their time, and we're making it during that time. That's pretty impressive. I'm not going to put Toronto in there and Baltimore because Toronto, up until this recently, they didn't. What was it? They won the World Series in '93. They didn't make the playoffs for 20 years. Like I don't, the Rogers communication now are kind of the Dodgers of the North. Now they're going to be competitive, right? Although be careful with that word. You're talking about a team much like the Yankees. Yankees didn't make the playoffs in 2023. That's with Aaron Judge winning MVPs, right? In his prime. I don't know. I don't know what Toronto's going to do. I don't know if they're going to be going back. I don't even know. I wouldn't be surprised. Let me just put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs. Think about it for a second. What if the Yankees make a run? What if the Red Sox make a run? And what if it looks like Baltimore's going to make a run? Now what? And then you got Tampa that's always sort of there, right? It can go south pretty quick. There's a reason why the Dodgers have played every World Series the last 5 appearances against NL East teams. Except, the last 4, sorry. Be careful. That's why the Dodgers are special. Artest was defensive beast. Good point. Yes, sir. Boy, I'm really behind here. I got to catch up. Wow, that would change a lot of Kobe's. Yeah, so, I've talked about this, and I always enjoy talking about it. Kobe's career, even if, let's say he still loses to Detroit, if they beat Boston in 08, if the Lakers beat Boston in 08, he three-peats twice, just like Jordan. He wins 3 straight MVPs, just like Jordan and Shaq, finals MVPs. He beats Boston both times. He would have won one of those titles likely in Boston, which is another notch. The Lakers passed the Celtics in 2010. I think, do they pass them after 09 actually? Let me think real quick. Boston was at 16 in 08 before the finals. Lakers were at 14. So then it would be 16, 15. Yeah. Lakers would have won. Lakers would have jumped. Basically, the 2010 championship would have been to pass as the number 1 sole team in title spot. Lakers got into, what was it, 5, 10, 13. Yeah. So 14, 15, 16. I'm sorry, guys. I'm drawing a blank here real quick. Let me get back to this. 5, so 6, 11, 14. Am I getting that right? They won 5 in Minneapolis, 6, 5, 14. So 15, 16, 17. Yes. I got it right the first time. So you have Boston at 16 going into the 08 finals. Lakers at 14. So Lakers win that series. Now they're 15-16 in Celtics' favor. Lakers win in 2009. They now tie for 16. Then they face in 2010. Now they play for the number one spot. The Lakers win those three in a row. If they beat the Celtics in 08, you are now looking at not only did Kobe beat Boston both times, won one of those in Boston, 3 straight finals MVPs, is the catalyst in passing the Celtics all time and winning 6 championships in 11 seasons. And 2 of those runs, you beat 450 win teams. Kobe is sitting next to Jordan at that point, just by winning 2 more games in 08, without a doubt. It doesn't matter if Jordan was probably better, because Jordan had athleticism a notch above Kobe. There's no arguing in my view of that. He had larger hands. Like, from an athletic standpoint, he could get to a spot because of that God-given athleticism quicker than Kobe. Kobe would just shoot over you. Kobe would underhand it and make it. Like, he was more Bird in that particular situation than he was Jordan, right? I always say that Jordan, I always say Kobe is kind of like half Bird, half Jordan. That's really who he was. His attitude was more like there's a lot of Larry Bird and Kobe Bryant, and then you had Jordan in terms of the lanky kind of body, right? And of course, he was much more athletic than Larry Bird. But to me, Kobe was a version of Bird and Jordan. And if he wins in 08, history changes. Shaq would be the number 1 big man of all time. Sorry, Kareem, but he would. If he beats Houston in 95 and he wins in 04, because he's likely sitting with 5 NBA Finals MVPs, 6-0 in the finals with 3 different teams. That stat, think about that for a second. It's a big difference, guys. He wins in Orlando, wins in LA, wins in Miami, wins 5 finals MVPs, never loses in the finals. He was favored in 95, he was favored in 04. That's the difference. Now, go to Jordan real quick. Let's say Jordan loses in 98 and he's 5-1. His aura drops a lot. That game, that series changes so many things when you lose it. I'm not saying you have to be undefeated in the finals. You have to factor in the circumstance. To me, competition matters. It does matter. So, if I ever get to heaven, I think one of the first things I'd ask, first of all, I'd ask St. Peter, please let me go in. Hopefully he'll let me in. And then, God, give me that Back to the Future tape. If I went back and Kobe won 08 and 04, how different would things be? It's a good discussion. What if? Meta world peace. Gerald Henderson. Yes, Gerald Henderson. Stupid damn pass. Joe, would you take that 91 championship of the Bulls and take away a chip from the Celtics? God, that's a great question, and it's a question I have been asking myself for a lot of years. Do I take, if I had one championship in the finals to take back for my team, 83, 84, 89, 91, 04, or 08, God, I have a lot of me says Magic having a win over Michael in 91, man, that is too tempting to go to especially at that time. If Magic beats Bird, Isaiah, Michael, Dr. J, whoo, wait. Damn. That's a hard one to pass up. But see, the thing is, I wasn't old enough to live through that. I mean, 91, I was invested, obviously. That was the first one. But I wasn't in it for the 80s. I was too young. But looking at it from an objective standpoint, the history, how can you not say I'd take the 91 championship over the others? Because Magic's career is now, when we talk about circumstances, how does that look for his career? Because then Jordan would have never beaten Magic because Magic never came back. I mean, he came back in 96, but that doesn't count. So Michael would have never been able to avenge the loss to Magic in 91. That would have driven him crazy. Yeah. I'd say 91. I'd say 91. Out of the 6 finals losses from the 80s till the 2000s, I'd say if I had one to pick that I'd love to have them win, I'd say 91. I think Magic Johnson's GOAT status would be completely different. He will have beaten MJ at his peak, too, by the way. He would have beaten he would have beaten Bird twice, beaten Dr. J twice, and then beaten Isaiah once. We would have never known if he was going to beat him twice in 89 if he hadn't gotten hurt, but that's, again, those were the guys, though. That's another one I think I'd do in heaven, too. See what happened with that one. Before my time, but why did they call him Tragic Johnson and blame Magic instead of Worthy? Magic made some very, very questionable decisions in that 84 series. Right after, in overtime, the time was running out, and he didn't even get a shot off. And then there was the game where Rambis gets clothesline, and also Game 7, he made some questionable decisions. The Game 7 one, they were sort of coming back, and then I think they were down 3 or 4 or 5, something like that, like a minute left. And he made this horrible shot that I think he thought he was going to get a foul called, and they ended up running and scoring, and then that was it. He made a lot of questionable. It's if you watch They Call Me Magic, I think that's the documentary. He talks about it. He talks about how he really screwed that up, and Isaiah and him were tight at that point, and him and Isaiah were just sitting that night, just hanging out, and Isaiah was talking about how Magic was just devastated. I mean, they cared about winning, man. Magic really, those guys really, really, really cared about winning. It was everything, and he came back with a vengeance, though, in 85. And if Kareem didn't have an unbelievable, like, tapping into his Thanos gene or moment, whatever, Magic, I think, averaged what? I think he might have averaged a triple-double in that series. Kareem won the Finals MVP, rightfully so, because he got shit on after the Memorial Day Massacre. I think they were calling him old, this and that, which they were doing that anyways. But the greatness of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is forgotten a lot of times. But you guys know I've said this before. It's hard to pick a center to be the all-time greatest. You can say he's the greatest big man. I have no argument against that. Matter of fact, I think you're right. I'd pick Kareem Abdul-Jabbar over Wilt, over Bill Russell, over Shaq, all of them, when he was on his game. And his stats and his ability to play team basketball, individual basketball, college, pros, Milwaukee, LA, doesn't matter. The guy was great from the moment he got in, from the moment he got out. So greatest big man, there's no doubt. But I cannot pick a center to be the greatest greatest player of all time. They can't control the ball, guys. They're not the ones controlling the ball. Now, if you want to ask and say, well, what about Jokic? Well, does Jokic bring the ball up, really? I mean, yeah, he does it on occasion, but he's not directing the team. He's not usually going to go and drive to the basket and do those type of things. He doesn't control the game like that, right? He's a point forward. He's what Arvydas Sabonis would have been and what we would have saw had he not stayed in Lithuania the first, 10 years of his pro career. And I don't even know if he would have been allowed to play that way even then, right? So, yeah. Magic was Not good in the '04 finals, and he made up for it though in the next two meetings with the Celtics. Beating Bulls wouldn't be like beating Celtics. It's not so much for status of that era of the '80s. Yeah, you want the Lakers to beat the Celtics 3 out of 3. Now you have to ask yourself, is that more important, or is it important to win one against Jordan? It's a tough one. If I had lived old enough to watch the '80s, I probably would have picked the '84. 89 still bothers me. I sort of was watching at that time, but not really. Those guys were 11-0. 11-0 going into the finals for a three-peat, sending out the cap as a winner, too. And that would have been still within that 10-year run, right? That's one that really kind of gnaws at me, too. What if they had won that? They win that. They win in '89. They three-peat to end at a time when no one was doing that, right? Repeating was amazing. Three-peat, 11-0 in the West, and then you beat Detroit again in '89. If they win that, now you look at 1980 through '89. The Lakers win in 80, 82, 85, 87, 88, and '89 to finish the decade on top. You start and you finish. And not only do you finish, you send Cap out a champion. He'd have 7 championships. You send out that era with a three-peat in the most competitive era of basketball ever. That says a lot, too. That says a lot, too. That almost holds as much water, too, as either winning in '84 or winning in '91. It might actually mean more because of the fact that they went 3 in a row. And they sent out Kareem a winner, Magic 3-peats, Magic 6-3 against Larry Bird. Losing that finals game is a ball breaker, man. It changes so many things. That's why Jordan is number one, because he never lost there. And he went there a lot. It's not like he won 2. How different would forget about the Lakers for a second. How different is Tim Duncan looked at? A little bit. I mean, a little bit, because again, you got to look at circumstances. Duncan wasn't the first option the last championship. He was like the third option, right? Which is okay. I'm fine. Shaq was the second option in '06, but how much better? Even though they do talk about Duncan. Imagine if Duncan wins in 13, and they should have, by the way. A lot of bad mistakes by Popovich, and Manu had his worst series I've ever seen him play, right? What if he goes 6-0? And he finally gets a repeat, too, by the way, because he never was able to repeat. He would have repeated in 13 and 14. But then you got to ask yourself, the way they played in 14, there was this focus and this revenge on their mind, and they played, in my view, probably the best in terms of basketball cohesiveness I've ever seen. That factors into these things. And that's what changes too. Like this, the Lakers, are they foaming at the mouth as much in '85 if they win in '84? Those are all things that you factor in there as well. Those play a part in it. Motivation. Yeah, Reggie would have, by far, would have been a difference maker. And the New York wins some of those series, without a doubt. That's funny. Joe, you think it's true that if Epstein files were truly exposed and people were faced with justice, our society would collapse and not able to handle the cold, hard truth? No. Unfortunately, this country is full of pederasts, disgusting pigs. And the ones that are not disgusting pigs are let's say, men who are, let's say, doing well, who date girls that are 19 and 20 that are men who are in their 40s and 50s. You look at you just look at how people's family structures are usually. A lot of undisciplined, a lot of accepting of mediocrity, a lot of, and at some point it started to keep building and building and building, and this is what your result is. The constant rated X garbage that's on TV. It's constant, right? You go on social media, it's a bunch of whores just talking about who they're fucking, sitting on a couch with their feet up. That's how these people are making money. They're making money having a conversation on a couch like I would at home, but they're making money because they're talking about how they like to suck a dick. And you have a bunch of disgusting pigs out there that want to watch that. Remember I told you about how you got to start early with the kids with drugs, and then they go from weed to this to that. That's what they're hoping for. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it's a gateway drug, but it is in a lot of history of drugs. It is a gateway. That's a gateway. You start having these kids who are on social media being sexualized, and you have a bunch of fucking idiot morons who want to, start telling people, well, you don't need to listen to your parents when you're in high school if you feel like a certain way. Like the fact that somebody would ever tell me, and again, no one's ever told me this because people, again, wouldn't say it. They probably are pretty observant when it comes to that kind of stuff on who to say it to. But the fact that there are arguments with people about how their kids need to have more freedom at 14. Kids are stupid, people. Not because their intelligence is stupid. They don't know anything yet. They haven't experienced anything. You want them to make adult decisions that are permanent? You are a fucking pig. Fuck you. And it's the job of the parents, to guide their children regardless of what's there. And how do you guide them? Discipline, respect. Doesn't matter. I have friends who are a bunch of fucking crying, whining babies too. Oh, I don't want to send my kid to school. I'm going to homeschool them. Okay, so you're going to homeschool your kid because of why? Is it because you want to give them a better education? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Are you sure that's what you're doing it for? Or are you worried about them learning something at school? Well, you don't think they're going to learn it at some point? It's actually better they actually start finding out what the real world is a little bit when they're kids. The only difference is you're there as the parent to tell them how stupid it is. Because that's how they learn discipline and respect. My mom and dad have been dead for years. I still make decisions in my life as what will be a 48-year-old man based off of what they would think. That's how you create. That's how you create humanity in the next generation. What's right and wrong is it's always going to be subjective, but there's fundamentals, right? We talk about fundamentals a lot when it comes to sports. Why do we yell at some of these games? Just focus on the fundamentals. Inbound the ball, use the ball, do this. Like, there are fundamentals. This is the stuff that they teach over and over again in AAU ball and college and all these places, pros, whatever. Fundamentals, if you're stuck, will get you out of your rut sometimes. If you're not talented enough or you can't focus enough. The bounce pass, right? The screen, these are all fundamental executions. If you set a good screen, you're going to get separation. You're going to have a better shot at getting the ball back. If you have shitty fundamentals, you're not going to get enough space, especially when it comes to the pros. Remember, the pros, an inch matters in the pros because that's how good they are. That extra separation, that extra little tug is the difference between timing of when the pass comes, how you catch it, and how you get to the basket. That extra inch on that 7-footer that's trying to block it. Fundamentals can get you past that. Why was Kobe able to dunk over the Yao Mings and the Dwight Howards? These guys are freaking people, man. They can jump out the building or they are a building. Fundamentals. Children need fundamentals so that when the bad defense comes to them, they know how to fundamentally get around it. And if you're too lazy to have children and raise children, then you're a fucking piece of shit. You shouldn't have had children. And if you can't raise your children, put them up for adoption and hope that somebody can do it. But then again, that's a whole different story. The loony left. It's a good description. We just lost all the bike sponsors. Wow, Joe. Bubba was my best friend. And even I know that ain't something you find right around the corner. You know, he played that role. That was all him, by the way, guys. Is it Mikkel Williamson? I think that's his name. He had a really good interview I saw a few months back. And that was all him, the lip. So props to him, man. He killed it. I'm also a Steelers and Lakers fan. What made you choose the Steelers? I didn't choose anything, my friend. Mr. Palma, good name. My father came to America in 1976, right at the heart of the Steeler dynasty. Didn't know anything about football, so that was kind of his introduction into football. Was Mean Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, all those guys, right? And then I was born in Royal Oak, Michigan, suburb of Detroit. My parents then moved when I was 2 years old to Fullerton. It's a city in between Orange County and L.A. And then that's when he started liking the Dodgers and the Lakers. So Steelers, Dodgers, Lakers from that period, and then I inherited it from Pops, basically. Thank God, because I don't know what the hell I would have done if he had stayed in Detroit and I was a Lions, Tigers, and Pistons fan. That would have been disastrous. That was a dope movie, Chris. Yes, it was. Kit Keller herself. I'll be damned. She was great in that movie too. That's my dad, man. That's one of my dad's favorite movies was A League of Their Own. Man, that movie was so good. That was before Rosie O'Donnell went nuts. Man, what a waste of talent. Her and Whoopi, man. Those are my staples in the early 90s, man. I loved watching anything they were in. Rosie was in she was in Sleepless in Seattle. She was in A League of Their Own. There was this one movie where it was a really hilarious movie with Richard Dreyfuss. I remember she was really great talent. Unfortunately, I don't know why these guys let politics destroy their lives, but her and Whoopi, man, those are my Whoopi's. One of my favorite movies growing up was Burglar with Whoopi, and it sucks because there's women comedians are very rare in terms of true talent, because most of the women comedians now are usually they just talk about sex and who they want to, again, just kind of like the podcast garbage. There are a few out there that don't, but more often than not, that's pretty much the shtick. But not Rosie, not Whoopi, man. They were talented, man. They could act, they could do stand up, they could do TV shows. I mean, Whoopi was in Star Trek, and I remember that was to me, I looked at Whoopi Goldberg like a movie star, like a Tom Cruise, like that. Whenever I saw her on TV, I'm like, what is she doing on TV? She's a movie star. That's how big she was when I was growing up. So Rosie O'Donnell too, man. I just really, really went south, just allowing some guy in an office to fuck you up like that. That's just sad. Tonight's Vince Scully Affleck trivia question. Jeremy, what's up? Sorry, I'm really behind on these posts, but we get into good discussions. I got to talk, right? I want 2 number 5 since it's my favorite number. It's going to happen. How is Seager not going to make the Hall of Fame? Seriously, let's look at his stats. I'll pull it up right now. How's he not? He's a 2-time World Series MVP, 2-time World Series champion, a Rookie of the Year, 3-time Silver Slugger. He even won an NLCS MVP. He's a 5-time All-Star. Right? Of course, Mike. Stupid ass computer slows down right at the worst moment. Looking at his stats. God, I hate these goddamn pop-ups. Come on, you stupid piece of crap. Let's see. Where is he? I mean, he's only. So they judge. They have all. If you look at how the Hall of Fame's been kind of rolling with, it's funny I use Rowland because Scott Rowland's been the subject of this. Scott Rowland is a Hall of Famer, right? And I was pretty adamant in saying what. But then I started looking at Tim Raines, Scott Rowland, and those guys are in because of their WAR. WAR has taken over the main stat in getting these guys in. So Corey Seager's WAR right now is 6.2. Let's look at Scott Rowland's real quick. And he doesn't have anything. Close to what Corey has, right? In terms of hardware. He won Rookie of the Year. Okay. He's an 8-time Gold Glover. Okay. 7. Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe his stats are not too bad either. But let's look at his WAR real quick because that's usually what it's based off of. So he got in at 5.6 WAR. So it's they have pretty much similar stats here and there. You know, one has this, one has that, kind of similar stats, but just different. So now what? Dude, Dodgers are going to have to retire 5. Likely have to. They're going to have to retire 5. They're going to have to retire the 5. But they might not do that. They might just retire Freeman's and just leave Seager out. Because if guys like Ron Say and Garvey aren't there, how are you going to put them up there, right? Let's see, retired. It's kind of weird, though, not having, like, Reggie Smith's not there. Garvey's not there. Ron Say's not there. That's kind of surprising a little bit. But yeah, Pee Wee Reese, you have Lasorda, Duke Snyder, Gil Hodges, Jim Gillum, Don Sutton, Walter Austin, Sandy Koufax. They retired Fernando's number. Roy Campanella's there, Jackie Robinson, obviously, and then Don Drysdale. Yeah. But Freeman's going to be a Hall of Famer. Shohei's going to be a Hall of Famer. Oh, by the way, guys, I forgot to put Shohei in there. I didn't even put Shohei in this. Hold on. Check this out. No way. I forgot to put Shohei in there. Where's that sound? Hold on. Where is it? Is it this one? Damn it. Anyways. Yeah, guys, I forgot the number one guy. So check this out. Final tally for the evening in terms of possible retired numbers for the Dodgers. 50 Mookie, gonna happen. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer. Dave Roberts, 30, definitely gonna happen. He's gonna win probably more World Series than any manager in Dodger history. Kershaw, definitely gonna be there. You have Yamamoto, who's on track. Ohtani, if he retired tomorrow, is gonna be up there no matter what. Then you have Will Smith. Then you have Max Muncy. Then you have Justin Turner. Then you have 2 5s in Seager and or Freeman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just this generation of Dodger players might produce 10 retired numbers, and technically it'd be 11 if you count 5 twice. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I don't think they're going to put in Muncy. I don't think they're going to put in Justin Turner, and I don't think they're going to put in Seager. I'm going to take a guess there. Because if Ron Say, Garvey, and like Davey Lopes and those guys aren't in there, then I think they're going to stick to the guys that are like above and beyond, right? Like if Yamamoto ends up winning 4 or 5 championships and is the World Series MVP 3 times, something like that. But even if you take those guys out, I mean, do you take out Will Smith too? Let's say Will Smith's out too. Let's just, for discussion purposes again, you still have. I'm gonna take Yamamoto out for a minute. Just indulge me here. Right now they have 5 guaranteed. Roberts is going to get retired. Betts is going to get retired. Kershaw is going to get retired. Ohtani is going to get retired, and Freddie Freeman. That's 5. Because every single one of those guys is going to be Hall of Fame. There you go. Of course, Seager's a Hall of Famer, then you have to retire that too, right? That's just, there's no way, right? So it's going to be very interesting in a decade for Dodger fans. Get ready to go to games. They're going to have a retired jersey at Dodger Stadium probably every week for about a month. That dunk concept was the worst I've seen. Ox, yeah, I didn't feel good about it, and it turned out that it felt exactly what I thought it was going to feel like. LeBron could have won tonight. No, he couldn't. He's too much of a pussy to try to do anything like that. No idea why Hayes even showed up. He's not that guy. He never was. I don't know why he did. Hey Joe, who should replace Rob, and will ownership fire JJ? I think Sam Presti should be the guy to go after. If not Presti, Brad Stevens. Those are my 2 picks. And as far as JJ is concerned, I don't know how a general manager is not going to want to hire his own GM. I'm sorry, his own coach. So when they get that guy, I don't know how he doesn't get his guy. That's how I feel about it. Extension or not, these extensions mean nothing, guys. They can get bought out. They'll pay it off. These contracts that the Dodgers pay and the Guggenheims, remember, these things are 110% on top of what they're paying. So when they're paying Kike $4.5 million this year, it's technically 9 and change because of the luxury tax. These guys have a lot of money. I don't give a shit about some rinky-dink 3-year contract for some coach or whatever. They'll pay it to get them out, or they'll buy them out, and that'll be it. That'll be the end of it. It's going to be very hard to convince me that this team isn't going to be a complete overhaul at some point, and JJ might be part of that. I don't see how a new GM, especially if it's somebody like Presti or Stevens, that they're going to not want to get their own guy. I just don't see it. Joe Soro, what does success look like to you? Having a thriving business, happy family, health, anything else? What qualifies do you see in successful people? Successful people are usually people who I would say that they're disciplined. I have friends that have families that are successful. I have friends that are not married are successful. I think the appreciation of where you are. That's something I've talked to certain friends of mine for years. We sit there and like, man, look at the life we live, man. We're living in Southern California. And at that time I was living in San Diego too. Not that Temecula's bad. I'm just saying, what are you gonna discipline and humility, man, and understanding that we're living a life that 99.9% of the population dreams of. I own a house. I have a healthy family. Health is everything, right? So take advantage of the fact that you have a roof over your head that you are in control over, and that you've been given health by God, by life, by the universe, whatever it is you believe in. And once you get that and you appreciate it, it resonates with everyone around you. Dealing with nonsense, the benefit of being me is those around me know that I'm not normal, but because I'm not normal, it allows them not to deal with as much headache. People are not going to necessarily bother people around me as much because I am like that. People don't want confrontation. They want an easy scam or an easy way in. And if you have somebody out there that can sniff scams and can't get in, they're going to go somewhere else. And then you don't deal with bullshit. My aggressiveness was tempered a lot when I had children because I didn't want my kids to grow up with anxiety issues. When there's constant tension, see, I can handle that. I'm wired for it. My kids are probably, children are not used to that. Maybe they'll grow up and deal with it, but not now. Not when they're like 2 and 3 years old. So the aggressiveness, it's got to be controlled. And if you can control yourself and how you adapt to people, your kids, your wife, your friends, your neighbors, and you create good communication, that's ultimately the success. Good communication will create good relationships with your neighbors, good relationships within the community. Home should be the easiest part because you chose that. You're the one that chose it. You chose your wife. You chose to have children. So that's your responsibility, and that's going to work out because you did your due diligence there. I can't control my neighbors, really. I can't control the person down the street. So then now you have to kind of go into that protection mode and analyze that a little bit so that you do have neighbors that are good to you, right? My neighbor on the right is maybe a little bit more high strung. Maybe I adapt to that particular personality when I'm with him, and then now he feels accepted. My neighbor on the left, he's an easygoing guy. I don't really need to put up a lot of effort. A lot of people want to just be one way. Can't do that. So success is being able to be adaptable and being able to be communicative and appreciating that you're healthy will go a long way in creating success in your life. Because if you do that, everything comes together. Your work comes together, your relationships come together. And we're all still human at the end of the day. We still fuck up. People still mess up. So that's the part that when it gets really weird, the context matter in those situations. So the difference between a dirtbag piece of shit like Anthony Edwards versus Magic Johnson at the beginning of his career, where he got a lady pregnant, right? He still took on the responsibility, right? Andre's still in every picture I see him in, right? Like, you see the difference? Because people get lost in that a little bit. Oh, well, how come it's okay for him to do it and this guy did? I'm like, oh, hold on. Context, folks. Context. Magic made a mistake, owned up, was a man, took care of his responsibilities. The other piece of shit writes checks and says, don't talk to me again. There are differences, folks. That is important to identify that. Because if you start putting those type of things together, you're not an intelligent person. And even if you are and you're doing it, then I know who you really are at that point. You're in denial. You're trying to make up stuff now. Once I find out you're making up stuff, you're done. Lakers will be investing in computing resources, human capital to develop models, gather data. Farhan Zadi came to my college here for class last fall. Oh, that must have been fun. Would have loved to have been there for that one. Good stuff there, Carino. If you want the finest Lakers, Dodgers content and breaking news, you have come to the right place here on The Experiment. That gunshot is too low, man. And now the cops are coming. Very scary, guys. It's very scary. Very scary. The old timers tell you Oscar Robertson and Wilt were the OG gods. That's why it's hard to compare, guys. Come on. But I do look at the results of it. Wilt is the greatest statistical big man, but he was 2-4 in the finals, guys. I'm sorry, but if you're that dominant, You can't be 2-4 in the finals. Just can't. Doesn't work that way. It's still a team game at the end of the day, right? I still can't believe they got destroyed by the Pistons. Yeah, they were checked out, guys. They were one series too far. They were reeling in that Minnesota Western Conference Finals series. You could see it. They were reeling. Kareem Rush went nuts in Game 6, hit 6 3-pointers at the time. That's like hitting 12 now. Helped them out winning that Game 6. Sam Cassell was injured. Latrell Sprewell was a good team. But I think they tapped out there. And I think they thought they were going to go into Detroit and whoop, which everyone did, but they ran out of gas at the worst time. Dumb question, LOL. If we fire JJ, would you hire Steve Kerr if he becomes available? No. Steve Kerr is not. Steve Kerr is a good babysitter, in my view. He's not, I think, going to have the communication skills to develop. I don't think that's his game. I think he's good. I think he's good as he's always been. He's the perfect what's a good example here? So when you have a business, you have let's say a CEO, a CFO, then you have marketing. He's like the perfect project manager. Like the highest project manager in a really good business. But as far as running the company as a CEO and a chief financial advisor, or I'm sorry, chief financial officer, marketing, it takes a little bit more skill. I always say that the marketing guys like X's and O's. He's like a Larry Brown, right? Like Larry Brown was that guy. A lot of times the marketing guy is just as important as the CEO because he has that skill or she has that skill. I don't think he has those skills in those areas, but he has really good project management skills. And the Lakers don't need that. The Lakers need someone like a Mazzulla. That's the guy I like. He's probably my favorite coach in the NBA right now. Tell me that Boston team, man. Mazzulla he would work so well here. I would do a full court press on Brad Stevens and Mazzulla. If those guys came in a package, I'd rather take those two guys than Presti. If you give me Mazzulla with Brad Stevens and I had a choice, Mazzulla and Brad Stevens or Presti, I would choose Brad Stevens and Mazzulla. That guy would be perfect for this team, especially with somebody like Luka, because Luka you don't have to worry about. Luka's going to be there, and I think whoever comes in second or 1A or 1-1, let's say Giannis, for example, right? You won't have to worry about those guys. He'll have everybody else. And that was what Phil did. Phil did the same thing. Phil didn't have to worry about Jordan and Pippen and those guys. He got guys like Steve Kerr and Paxson and Horace and Bushler and Weddington. All these guys that kind of were cohesive. And I know a lot of the work was Jordan too. I'm not going to say Jordan and Kobe weren't the guys, but Jordan and Kobe and Shaq still can't. They're not going to go devise practice schedules, and that wasn't their job. Why it was easier, I think, for Phil to do those things is because the fact that he had Jordan and Kobe and Shaq and those guys, and those guys didn't need to be groomed or anything. They were going to be who they were going to be. They were great, and they were going to be great. So yeah, I'd say no to Steve Kerr, but Joe Mazzulla would be my. If I had to choose, I would be the guy I'd go after. Lots of people will also tell you Jerry West was the best. Jerry West arguably is the greatest Laker of all time. He did it in every phase. Coaching, even though he says he wasn't a good coach, heck, he took that 77 team to the Western Conference Finals, and they had a lot of injuries that year, and they lost to the best team. Best executive I've ever seen in my life. And there's a lot of proof for that. Elgin gets the shit into this stick. Even I forget about Elgin. That's sad. It is. It's sad. Elgin Baylor is one of the best players of all time, too. But see, losing those finals, guys, it changes everything, right? It doesn't matter how good the stats are. When you lose those finals, it changes everything, no matter how good you are. Follow up, beating Bulls or Celtics. Players come and go. Lakers not passing Celtics will be a thing until Lakers one up the Celtics. Then Celtics would want to do the same. Probably will go on. Yeah, they need to get on that quick. Let's see. I agree with Serge Kerr. Coaching Lakers may get that one a timeout. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not really a big Steve Kerr fan in general. I think his head is up his ass a lot of times. Jay, you're good. Joking. Okay, you guys are talking. Joe is speaking real truth. Thanks, Serge. Appreciate it, man. True, Joe. Parents got their kids walking out of school to protest ICE. These kids are gonna think it's okay to just walk out of their jobs as adults. Yeah, it's it's a I pass by the main high school here a lot where I live, and when you see children coming out of the AM PM going to class with a monster can, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about those big ones. Bad. There's a time and place if you want to participate in waste of time protest, but go to school. Well, a lot of the stuff right now, even people aren't really taking it seriously anymore at this point. Protests used to be about true injustice, and there was a limited avenue for that, right? So when athletes would go to the '68 Olympics, or at that time in general, again, context, folks, context. There were 3 channels at one point. There wasn't 4 billion channels and 4 billion ways to see and hear and do things online. So why am I hearing this? Isn't there like political shows, political channels where we can hear this now? There's an avenue towards that. Why do I got to hear this bullshit watching a game 80, game 34 of an NBA game? There are other avenues for it now. It's not NBC, ABC, and CBS, and that's it anymore, and you can't really go anywhere else to say anything. There was a difference. I've had that discussion so many times, and a lot of people just refuse to understand it. I don't give a fuck about your protest, and more people think like I do. Okay, people want to go to work. Teachers want to go teach. My wife works in the school district. Believe me when I say this, okay? The teachers are not the problem. I mean, there's always going to be that bad cop, and there's always going to be that bad teacher. But I'm going to tell you right now, as a parent, parents are a fucking nightmare to deal with. They're the problem the majority of the time. Because I see it. I've been on those black courts at school when the kids are doing their little dances and they're singing, when they're in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. You just observe how these parents treat their children. They're fucking terrible at it. They don't know how to talk to their kids. The kids mouth off. Or even when the kids are not mouthing off and they're like curious about stuff, they're being treated like shit. Garbage. Hell, today, dude, I was eating sushi today for lunch. And this dumb bitch behind me was, you could tell it was a teenager. This bitch was F-bomb this, F-bomb that in the restaurant. There's a couple times I turned around and I'm friends with the owner of the sushi joint. We call him Unk. And he's a Korean guy who serves sushi, which we always joke about that. I'm like, so you're Korean and you're serving Japanese food. I've known him for 10 years. And I'm sitting there and I'm eating my sushi, and I can hear this stupid bitch dropping F-bombs every 2-3 seconds, and it's loud. Like, it's loud. Everyone can hear her. And there was 2 times I just went like this. I was so close on the second one to say something because there was a couple kids that were sitting around too. I'm like, hey, can you stop doing that? There's children here. But I knew if I had done that, this bitch was probably going to mouth off. And then I would get louder. And when I get loud, it doesn't matter what anybody says. I'll out loud anybody in the room. And then I fuck up the whole room. Then Unc is trying to get around the counter and calm me down. And Then you have a bunch of people, a bunch of midgets in there that are trying to calm some guy who's 6'3", 400 pounds, yelling at somebody or yelling at a woman. All that played in my head. But at the same time, I was close. I was close to getting up and saying, listen, we have children here. Stop cussing. People are weird. Joe, we need more philosophical conversations on here, which I know you cover from time to time. I think your audience wants more. I know they want it. I know. And that's why I throw it in. Look, there's nothing I do on here that isn't because of what you guys want. That's what this is for. If you guys want things, I have to, as the guy that's hosting a show, give you what you want. The only thing is I have to think about how I say it. And what I mean by that is I'm not afraid to say it. What I'm worried about is I don't want it to be, I want this to be a conversation about learning about what we're here for, which is sports. We throw in a couple of real life stuff in there to make it make sense. That's how I learned to broadcast. You make it relatable because there may be somebody on here who isn't interested in the sport, the Lakers or the Dodgers, and just wants to listen to what I say. That is what I was taught. That's why when you see Colin Cowherd, I remember his description of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots a few years back on how the quarterback is the CEO. People are going to understand that if they're not Tom Brady fans or football fans. And they'll watch Colin Cowherd because he's good at relating things to sports. Therefore, now they're interested in learning, so this is who Tom Brady is. He's like a CEO of a company. And what happens when a CEO is dominant and knows what he's doing and is prepared and is bringing in whatever? This is why Tom Brady is successful, because this is what's going on. This is who Bill Belichick is. Bill Belichick is chairman of the board. He's the main chief. Like, that's what we're doing here. Now, there's going to be people that are going to interpret things a certain way, which, again, when you're not weak and you're not hiding behind anything, you're not going to really be affected by it. If you think that I'm some right-wing nut or some left-wing conservative, whatever, doesn't matter what that is. In the end, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. I get off the show sometimes when I go into my little diatribes, and I'll, because I do try to go back into the shows and try to critique my work. And sometimes the conversations are good. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we have great conversations, and I love listening to it between me, Gerald, John, whoever, Jeff. But at the same time, I will pop in that, and as soon as I start talking, I'm like, ugh, and I'll turn it off. So if somebody comes out and criticizes what I say, and it's a show that I didn't like how I spoke, I'm probably going to agree with them. Yeah, I really sucked talking about that. It didn't come out right, and that's the game. That's the game. Freeman is going in without a team. He's too nice of a guy. Look, I'm trying. Is it really one team? I keep hearing different stories now. Is it one team anymore? It used to be maybe. He's if they say you can go in with both, he's going in with both. You're right. He is too nice. He became a legend, though, in a Dodger uniform. I don't care what he did in Atlanta. And Atlanta should be docked for what they did. Atlanta should be docked. He won't do that because he's such a nice man. But really? Matt Olson? Matt Olson? What has Matt Olson done for you guys? And this is sad because I'm throwing shade at Matt Olson. He didn't even do anything. He got out of Oakland. He was probably happy getting out of Oakland, right? Oh, shit, these guys are going to give me millions of dollars to get out of Oakland. Thank God. But guys, Atlanta, come on. This is different, man. This is your Kobe Bryant, man. Freddie Freeman, as good as Dale Murphy was, two-time MVP back-to-back, as good as Chipper Jones is, I mean, other than Hank Aaron, who else? It's Hank Aaron and it's Freddie Freeman, in my view. And that sucks to say, right? Because you still have Tom Glavine. You still have Smoltz. Greg Maddux, but those guys are pitchers. It's a little different, right? When we look at all-time greats, which is why Ohtani kind of takes the spot, right? He's both. And how long has Babe Ruth been the best baseball player of all time? And guess what? He did both. But I can't really go anywhere. I was entrenched in Atlanta Brave baseball because I used to watch them on TBS growing up. I had friends who were Atlanta fans because of it. You know, that's what Ted Turner did. He made it a national team at that time. Atlanta was, in a lot of ways, in baseball, America's team, right? So I'm very familiar with the Atlanta Brave culture. Very, very familiar with it. It's Hank Aaron, and then it's Freddie Freeman, in my view. In my view, it's Freddie Freeman second to Hank Aaron. That's it. So, and you let him go for Matt Olson? You don't let go of Freddie Freeman, dude. And you're going to see it, guys. You're going to see it. You're going to see Freeman's contract runs out in 2 years, and they're going to give him a 2-year contract. He's going to play 20 years. He's going to hit 3,000 home runs in a Dodger uniform. He's probably going to win at least a couple more championships, at the very least, in that time. He's going to retire with 5 championships, 4 of them in L.A., hitting 3,000 in L.A., hitting at least, as of right now, 2 iconic home runs in the World Series. World Series MVP. He became a legend in a Dodger uniform. He became a Hall of Famer after 2021 when he won the World Series, but he became a legend in Dodger blue. And if I could be at a banquet on a podium with Freddie Freeman there, and if they said, all right, we're going to have a Dodger fan and a Brave fan, try to convince Freddie Freeman on which jersey to go into, which hat to wear. That would be my spiel. Right, just what you just saw. And I would apologize to Matt Olson and John Smoltz and all those guys. Maddux, all Chipper. Guys, I'm sorry. Maybe my memory isn't as good in the 90s seeing Chipper and Smoltz. No, it's not. Actually, I'm very clear on the 90s. Freddie Freeman is the second greatest Atlanta Brave ever. Mind you, he's not the second greatest Dodger of all time, but his Dodger career every year has been a moment of greatness, whether he was hitting almost 60 doubles in 2022. Was 2022 or 2023? One of those years. And then, of course, what he did in 2024, what he did in 2025, just remarkable. All the stuff that he dealt with, too. His kid almost dying, destroying his ankle, broken rib. He's the nice version of Kirk Gibson. Plays through pain, is always available, but he's nice. Kirk Gibson was a beast. Kirk Gibson is probably how I would have played baseball. So, yeah, that'll be a fun discussion in 5-6 years. It's coming soon, too, guys. Yeah, Davey Lopes, yeah. That infield played together 10 straight years, guys. There's a lot of history there. Joe is lively at 12 a.m. Is it that late? Holy shit, it's almost 1. Wow, I'm hitting 3 hours here, baby. See how fast it went by? We got the 10-minute mark here. I'm going to try to make it a 3 here real quick. Look at Ken Lee. He's on track of having numbers to other closers that are on Hall of Fame. Yeah, now it's just numbers now, but impact isn't as good. Muncy and Turner are not going in. You're probably right on that left. Okay, you admitted it. Yes. King Cobra. That's like having Steph, LeBron, KD, Luka, Jokic, Wemby, and Giannis on the same team. Thank you so many great comments. Yes, sir. What's the chances of lockout? It's probably going to be, I think Chris Mad Dog Russo, who's tapped into the baseball thing. I heard him today on one of the podcasts online. He said there's definitely going to be a lockout, but he doesn't anticipate it being like he doesn't think it's going to go all the way through the season. He said there's probably definitely not going to be spring training, and then he probably miss a couple of weeks of the beginning of the year. That's his prediction, and he would know. He's tapped into that pretty extensively. I would say if I had a prediction, I think it'll be a 100-game season when it's all said and done. I just don't think they're going to chance shutting down the year. There's way too much momentum, especially if they end up. Let's say the Dodgers go and get to the World Series and they meet, I don't know, Boston or New York again, and it's a 6-game juggernaut of a series, and the ratings are at 50 million again. No, there's no way these guys are going to destroy the momentum they have on this. And if the ABS system is a success, guys, which I think it will be, it's over. Baseball is starting to become a lot like what the NFL was in the 2000s. You had the perfect blend of technology and still the old school football, and then things kind of started getting shittier as the 10s and 20s started coming in. But it would be like the 2000s era football with technology and the sport still being relatively kind of football dominated instead of money, like Goodell has turned it into. Sports and fitness lies. Joe, what is one piece of advice from your mother and father that you've kept with you, still live by? Parents have a high, very influence for who kids are. Kids are basically mirrors for their parents. My mother wanted us to be confident. My sister and I wanted us to be confident without being assholes. I remember I did something arrogant once, and it was more of a joke. I was playing off one of my buddies who was doing it, and she was quick to say, "Stop doing that." And she wasn't. My mom was a tough woman, but it was an interesting response. It was quick. It's like, no, don't do that. No, don't ever do that. Kind of like, yeah, I was like this. She was on it quick. She used to say, no one's better than you, but don't act like you're better than everybody. Paraphrasing, but that's essentially what my mom would say. My dad was a little more black and white. My dad would say, I asked my dad once, I said, what if I did drugs? He said, good, go ahead and ruin your life. My dad was quick. My dad was quick on lessons. Don't be a jerk off was basically what he would always say. Not in those terms, but that's essentially what he says. He said, don't be an idiot, don't be a jerk off, and you'll be fine. In terms of ultimately what both my parents did was they taught me, if you do things you're supposed to do, you'll be left alone. I'd say that's the best advice ever, because it's true. If you're not banging the neighbor's wife, if you're not stealing money, if you're not embezzling, you're not screwing people at work over their job, like if you're not fucking with people in their lives, you're not going to have problems. No one's going to come look for you. Even the people who wish negativity towards you because you're happy and you're successful, you can actually avoid those people too by not bragging about what you have. No one knows what I do, really. I mean, I have social media. I'll post some things here and there, but no one really knows what I do. I'm in the turf business, sure. Yeah, I tell you about my business and some of the things I do, but you really don't know what I do. You don't really know a lot about what I'm doing with my family. Yeah, we'll have a birthday party picture every now and then. We were at Disneyland. But that's once in a great while, just because it's part of the that day's activity. But I'm not out here trying to constantly just tell you what I'm doing. I think that's not just that's not a social media thing. That's a culture thing. My parents came from a superstitious type culture, right? Like most foreign cultures and most ethnic cultures, and they used to always say, "Be careful of this. You don't want the evil eye to come to you." And it's interesting that I never really considered it a superstition. I don't think I correlated it with that. But what I do know is there are certain people that are jinxed. I mean, it's hard it's hard to argue against it in some of the things I've seen in my life. And you stay away from jinxed people, and they just they make their own bed in that. So the advice both my parents essentially told me in growing up, and it was more showy than verbal, is don't fuck around. Don't fuck with people, and you'll find yourself being left alone. And that's ultimately what's happened in my life. If you like baseball, watch cricket. It's better. I don't know if I could watch another sport, Mark. I don't have time. We're in America, bro. Baseball is the shit. I like when somebody says bro in between their discussion. It almost feels like, okay, what is somebody arguing with somebody? Is that what you guys are doing? You guys trying to, bro. The theatric sound effects are legit. Let's see here. What is the other one that I liked? Some of them go longer than they should, and some are shorter than they should. So I don't know. Whatever. Luca would probably pick a soft coach. No, he ain't picking anybody. They asked Missoula if he had a chance to meet the king and queen of England, and he replied, "Are you talking about Joseph, Mary, and Joseph, Jesus? Great deep Christian in his faith." It's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. If he wasn't wearing that puke green, man, he'd be the best. Our children, I'd be cheering for him every minute of the day. Our children is the most important goal, Joe. Speaking of facts, yeah, it's humanity's advancement is based off of how children are raised and how you send them out in the world. That's how humanity advances. You'll notice that Idiocracy becomes more of a documentary on now, right? That seems to be the ongoing joke with that movie. Well, when you keep raising when stupid people are raising stupid kids, this is the result. It's there. It's right there in front of you guys. The children are our future. When we are old farts need doctors, these kids will be our doctors. Yeah, and again, lawsuits in America, I'd say the one thing that I cannot stand about America that I've really, really resented in the last 20 years is this litigious culture of everything. Everything is based off of suing somebody. So many decisions are made from corporations to doctors to lawyers based off of not getting sued. And when you do that, you muddy the water too much. And it's sad. It's sad that that's the world you live in. Children are too young to learn about this stuff. She should start recording the argument and post it. Wait, I'm really behind here. Well, I'm not behind, actually. I'm seeing the end here. That's good. We're here for sports, just to be a fan and ask sports questions. This is the reality. Again, real life stuff, guys. I don't ever mind me. I'll answer it. Great show, Ox. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. It's okay. It's okay to get out a little bit, but we don't want it to dominate. This is still a sports show. Let's make this show bigger, please. Yes, that'll be your guys' job to make it bigger. And I believe it will. It just depends on the resources too. When time becomes a little bit more, Jeff and I have talked about this a lot. When time and resource becomes 1 and 1A, it'll be a lot easier for us to do that. But again, with that, thank you all for being here. I wasn't planning on being here for 3 hours. I was thinking maybe 2, but again, sometimes good discussions create good shows, and time flies when you're having fun. So thank you all for being here on this Valentine's. Well, it used to be Valentine's evening. Have a blessed evening, day, morning, wherever you are. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon. Have a good evening. And until next time, we'll see you next time.